Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday, May the 2nd, 2024. It's another Technical Alpha podcast. Hold on here. Gonna find the happy place after the audio shenanigans from last week. Figure that out. It's another great show. That's actually a complete and utter lie this week for the first time ever. It's a complete and utter lie because I just walked into the house 10 minutes ago. And so our podcast script for this week includes stunning things like whatever the fuck comes out of our mouth. And whatever the fuck comes out of her mouth. I literally just walked in the house. I had the last thing that I'd done before I came inside. I had a guy here to do a quote on tree removal, and it ended up, of course, being a guy that went to high school with. Hadn't seen him in friggin' 15 plus years. Of course, that ended up in a very long extra conversation beyond just getting a quote on the tree removal. and so when it was all said and done, I walked inside, and time didn't feel like it was going that fast out there. And I looked at the clock and went, "Oh, well, shit." And so here we are. So we're just gonna make it up as we go along, Mr. Black. I mean, I already know, as I do, I already know a couple of things going on, but we're just gonna fucking wing it today.
Wing it?
It's a chill day today.
It, man.
It's a chill day today.
It is a chill day, and there's nothing wrong with a chill day. We're here. That's all that matters, right?
It's true. It's true. So, before we get started, most important question of the week. Mr. Black, how's your week?
My week, it was another week, man. I didn't really do too much this week. Got in some streaming. Had a couple of days off. Been just prepping for the car that's gonna arrive in 3 hours. Less than 3 hours now.
Yeah.
So I will be picking that up tomorrow, all likely. So yeah, I went out and got some. I'm gonna do some vlogs, and I'm not going down the GoPro route. It's just too much. There's too much shit. There's too many pieces and.
They're the Nintendo of the camera world, Mr. Black. The amount of accessories that come with having a GoPro.
Yeah, not a fan. I mean, they work and they're good, but it's too much work.
They shockingly still corrupt a lot of files today. Like for some reason, they have yet to figure that out. I don't know why, but that is still a problem.
I went through that when I used to do it too. Like, just files wouldn't work. They wouldn't update. They transfer to the computer. Like, some fucky shit will go on. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be using this as my camera because it's the year 2024 where this is pretty good for what I'm going to do with it.
So you're just going to get like a stick so that if you do you can hold it out in front of you so you can use the rear facing camera instead of relying on the selfie cam and just do it. Yeah, you fucking look wild.
Yeah, so I got a stick.
I mean, you're not strapping it to the side of your car. I mean, you still want a GoPro for that shit, but if you're just doing vlogging.
Exactly. I still got 2 GoPros here, and I still have my drone as well. So I'll use little things for aerial shots. But I went and got the Rode wireless.
Yeah, wireless lav mic.
The square
it's
one,
the square
one
that
everybody has.
Yeah, and they have it because it's cheap and it works really well.
Exactly. I got one of them. Hook it up to this. That'll be my audio.
Yep.
I've got a couple of suction cup things there to put on windshield and stuff. I'll mount that. I can do my talking while I'm driving. And then I've got a long selfie stick and a tripod kind of mixed in one. The phones, I was going to get a gimbal, but the way these phones are,
you don't need a gimbal for a cell phone.
Pretty stable gimbal technology in these. It's almost, you can tell a small difference, but it isn't worth having another piece of equipment.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least the rear cam for yours, and I think at least one of the rear cams on mine now, I think they are given optical stabilization, which means it's physical. So and then there's digital on top of that. So like
Yes.
the camera eye is physically floating in space, gets rid of a lot of the judder, and then you tack, onto and if that wasn't enough, when you put it into whatever editing software you end up using, it all has image stab as well. Correct. That you can make use of. So yeah, gimbals are nice, but they're also kind of bulky for like bulky. A gimbal for a cell phone is a little funny. Like if you were going to use my DSLR or some shit, gimbal makes sense. But if you're,
of course,
they'd be fucking hilarious. That would actually look really funny walking around with a gimbal and then like on the top of the gimbal is a fucking cell phone.
Yeah. It's overkill. So I'm keeping it simple. I'm gonna hook up everything tonight. While I'm doing this podcast, I'm just deleting photos and I'm just clearing up some space because my phone's like almost completely filled. So I'm just kind of going because I got like photos on there from like 2017. Yeah. So I just got to go through and delete a bunch of shit and then keep a bunch of stuff in storage. I'm just using my current phone. I was considering just buying the newest phone. I'll see how this goes.
Which one do you have? 12 or 13?
I have the 13
Pro?
Max or Pro or whatever it's called.
Well, there's Pro and then there's Pro Max. Pro Max is like the really big tablet phone, and then the Pro is the more standard size, very similar spec, just not the big honking version. Like the Pro Max would be almost the size of my Samsung.
Yeah, this is Pro Max.
Okay, so it is the big one.
Pro Max.
Yeah, so the camera difference that you'd be getting is basically zero. Nothing that would be worth spending all that money on, like for real.
The only thing I think the difference is the zoom, and then there's something else. But I mean, dude, for what I'm using it for, bro, it's fine.
Honest to God, the only camera that has impressive zoom is this one and the S24. Because it's an insane. It doesn't even make sense. Like I don't know what fucking magic.
The new iPhone one is pretty insane. It's got like 50x optimal zoom, and it is crispy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I it doesn't even make sense how they fucking do it anymore.
You can see videos of people at concerts and nosebleeds.
Yeah, they're just zooming in,
and it looks like they're sitting in the fucking front row. It's like,
it's
what
impressive.
The fuck?
But you're not going to need any. You don't need zoom.
No, I don't need any of that shit.
You're just doing like arm's length and a little bit more.
That's it, bro.
You don't need the fucking
it. So that's pretty much all I've been doing. Just prepping for this. Car comes in tomorrow. Went through hell and back. Still going through hell and back with insurance. Yeah, it's man, the loops that these motherfuckers have had me doing to get this insured is absolutely insane. But we're here. I should have the insurance card for this in the next. Well, I'm gonna call them right after the podcast, and then hopefully that is finally done because that's been a week long process because they got to do a bunch of underwriting. Once a car is over a certain amount of money, like they need,
it has to go to an underwriter.
There's a whole another slew of shit that you got to go through. It's not, but it is what it is. And yeah, that's been pretty much my week, man. It's been feeling like Christmas for the last 10 days. I'm just holding on for dear life, waiting for
the arrival,
waiting for the car. Yeah, that's it. So
should have bought like a little chocolate advent calendar countdown for the car arriving.
Yeah,
like those little advent calendars for Christmas.
Of course,
you open those little tickle. You should have got one for the car leading up to the car. Fucking car advent calendar would have been funny. My week was also, I shouldn't say my week was also Christmas. Christmas insofar as that I'm finally done Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's done. It's over. Not only that, but the review is written, recorded, and now it's in Mark's hands. So I am about to be washed clean of that for at least the next 18 to 24 months before they finally ship out the next. Well, I suspect that the next in-between is probably within 18 months of coming out, like what they did with Intergrade. And then the next final one will be another year or 18 months after that. So I still feel like we're probably 3, almost 4 years away from the actual conclusion of this whole Final Fantasy VII series at this point. So that got done, 130 hours.
A lot of hours, Adam.
I almost did
That's-
everything. There was a couple things that I just, at that point in the game, I got to them and I went, nah, I don't have the energy for it anymore. I didn't like the game enough to to actually continue to do a lot of the side stuff. But I did. I would say like 98, 99%. It was basically, I got to a point where there was a fight to get Odin, and the fight to get Odin is too laborious as far as like what they want you to do with the fight mechanics, which I think the combat mechanics are complete shit. And I couldn't bring myself to do it. And so I got all the way up to the point where I could get Odin, and then I was like, nah, it's whatever.
Yeah,
and then I moved on, and then I had a similar situation with Gilgamesh, where there's that one's a bit more involved. There's a whole quest line throughout the whole game to get to Gilgamesh. Saying this is not a spoiler. Gilgamesh is in Final Fantasy VII. But there's a whole big song and dance, and pretty early on when you play it too, like that this is leading to Gilgamesh if you played the original Final Fantasy VII. But getting him, the what they were asking you to do at the 11th hour, the last little step to get him, I was just like, I can't. I looked at the game, I looked at the in-game time. I saw it and I was like, pass. So Gilgamesh stayed behind. So did Odin, and but pretty much everything else I did in the entire game. And
nice.
With a couple of exceptions. So I thoroughly played it, and the review is forthcoming. It will probably be out on Monday, Tuesday. But I'll say that I liked it better than Remake.
That's good.
Like in general, like I think that Remake was paced way better, which is crazy because Remake is literally you're stuck in Midgar for the whole fucking time. But the pacing in this one is fucking atrocious. I mean, you would remember playing the original. 7's one of your favorite games of all time, right? So
that's right. In
the original, when you leave Midgar, that weird middle ground that largely makes up the rest of the first disc.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of narrative that happens once you leave Midgar. Like, you collect a couple of characters, right? You're exploring the world for the first time. You're getting exposed to things like Chocobo, the Chocobo system, and all that kind of shit. You might come across some of the more hidden shit, like you might see a weapon or whatever. But there's not the narrative. The narrative doesn't move a lot until you're getting into the very end of the first disc and into the second disc of the first game. This Rebirth is kind of where Remake was all of Midgar. Rebirth is the rest of the first disc, more or less.
Okay. Yeah.
So there wasn't
they still got. Oh my
they got
God.
a lot. They got some.
Jesus Christ! How many fucking games are they gonna put out for this thing, man? Like, are they planning on doing? At this pace, it's gonna take them 4 or 5.
I thought originally, and I still do think that it was going to be 3 main games and 2 offshoots, where they did the Yuffie one in Intergrade, and I still think that they're going to do one for Vincent, like they did with Yuffie, and then the final. And I still think they're going to call the final one Reunion. It's going to be Remake, Rebirth, Reunion. And they have a lot, because they split the first disc up into 2 games. And disc 2 is pretty meaty. Disc 3 has like nothing because it was mostly there.
Disc 3 will be easy to get through. Yeah,
because it was mostly cutscenes. There's not a lot going on. So you could call Final Fantasy VII, for all intents and purposes, you could call it a 2-disc game, really, because the third disc was there for cutscenes. But it took them 2 games to do the first disc. So I don't know how. And if you were going to do a part of this that would have been 1 game, it would have been the first disc. The second disc has a lot of shit that happens in the second disc, I should say. So if I was to expect a multi-part version, the second disc is where what I would have expected too, but they did that on 1. So what the fuck are they going to do with the second disc? I don't know. But saying that, as you would remember, the majority of what happens in the end of that first disc is basically like the gold saucer. You're exposed to it for the first time, all that kind of shit. But again, like, not a lot of narrative happens in that disc. So they took that, and obviously they've added and changed things because that's like the whole concept of this whole thing. But a lot of it was remarkably similar on this one, and they stretched that on its own out to be 50 to 60 hours. So if you weren't me and you weren't doing all the side stuff, and the reason why I did all the side stuff, other than I wanted to review it thoroughly, was a lot of the side quests were where you were getting that extra character interaction. Like you would do a side quest and you were seeing the characters interact. And for me, the only reason I'm playing this game is because I'm seeing the characters interact. The story is dog shit. It's not even bullshit, it's dog shit. It's actual ass. So the only reason for me playing it is because I get to see all of these incredibly well-rendered characters, and they look so good. Most of the game, they don't even have to do CGI. Good. Like, they just do in-engine. The characters look fucking incredible. And when they do pull out full CGI, it looks really good, but then it makes you appreciate how good the in-game renders are for the characters. And they're voiced so well, and the moment-to-moment character stuff is written well enough and is endearing, and so that's where I'm getting all my enjoyment. The story can fucking fall off a cliff, but that stuff. So I did all the side content because of that. But if you were just focusing in the majority on the main quest, which you could totally do, it's not level gated particularly hard. It's not like you're gonna have to grind. It's like a 50-hour to 60-hour experience, and
that's not that bad. I mean,
it's not that
for
bad.
A Final
but
Fantasy game.
It's not that bad, but remember that the entirety of the original was 50 hours. If you don't do a bunch of the extracurricular activity, the original Final Fantasy VII is somewhere between 50 and 70 hours, depending on how slow you take a couple parts.
Okay.
That's the whole game.
Yeah.
So Remake on its own was 50 hours. I did it in 70 because I did extra shit. So so that's Midgar by itself is the length of the entire first game, really original release, and then the second one we're tacking another 50 to 70. So now we're up to 100 to 140.
Yeah, I mean you're pretty much gonna have to probably double that again.
You're gonna have in my review I said they're trying to justify this change of story and the little extra bits that they've added to the characters. Are trying to justify from a pacing perspective, think of it like a movie, from a pacing perspective, 200 hours of gameplay. And that's if you're just doing the main quest line. We're not even fucking touching all the extra shit. Yeah. They're 400 hours fucking of all this other shit, which sounds like you're like, oh my God, that sounds incredible. The problem is that much of that is not earned at all. It's just there. It's fluff. Everything in this game is a mini game. The whole game is a goddamn mini game. It's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it more than Remake. I think partially because I'm not stuck in Midgard the whole time, and there were more character interactions and stuff that I could enjoy to a degree. And you got more of the characters. You know, when you're in Midgard, you only have a subset of the characters. Now you've got more or less. You know, by the time you're in Rebirth, you got almost everyone, if not everyone. So that was nice. So I enjoyed that much. But yeah, it's still a really hard game to love, and it's a unless you had nostalgia. I have a community member, Datbeard, who has never played Final Fantasy the original game. Had nothing going into doing Remake and Rebirth. And I was super interested. I'm like, so how are you finding this? Because if I asked you, what do you think why would you take a game like Final Fantasy VII, which is iconic, and after dragging your heels for fucking ever, you finally decide to modernize it? Mm-hmm. What would be like the only reason that you would remake literally like the whole game and split it up? It would have to be because you don't want people that didn't play the original to feel like this is only a game for people who played the original. Right? Like you want to be able to fold new people in. So I was super interested in what the take was for somebody who is, one, Datbeard is not nearly as critical as I am. Datbeard is way more lenient about shit than me. So that was good. And then also and he's in chat right now. So he's calling it a solid 6. And he had much of the same complaints I did, even though he didn't have the angst and anger I did about the nostalgia factor for me, like what they're doing with the game. He gave it more or less the same score, and for the same reasons. Pacing is bad, The story is fucking literally ass. It's one of the worst written fucking things they could have come up with. He didn't hate the combat as much as me. I fucking hate the combat, but that's the combat is going to be different depending on the style of combat that you choose to take. For me, it was terrible, and I could write an entire fucking article on why the combat's terrible, whereas somebody else would probably be like, oh, I like it, but it's fine. It's just not great. Either way, that was the majority of my week, and I'll use that as a lead up just to talk about something because it's kind of an interesting point. We just discovered this week, Mr. Black, that Square Enix just filed for $141 million in losses on what they're calling because they had to cancel games. So 141 million US. It was 22 billion yen. And that's a lot of money. $141 million is a full, on its own, if it was one game, it'd be a full AAA game on its own, $141 million. But I don't think this was them canceling one game. I think this was them canceling a handful of some of the smaller, perhaps other, not remakes, but remasters and things of that nature that they were tackling. People are wondering, however, if the Final Fantasy IX remake or remaster that they had planned and announced to some degree was part of this whole cancellation, which I think it is, honestly. At 141 million, a Final Fantasy IX, spit shine is probably going to cost them 70 million up front right on its own. Probably half of that 141 million. And so it's an interesting point because we know that Rebirth is not selling nearly as well as Remake. Like almost half as much, maybe, as Remake did. And that's a problem when you're taking this long and spending all that money to put out this game and you're not even done yet. You still got 2 more games minimum in the tank on this bitch. Right? And you're waiting to play them when they all come out at once, which I think is smart. It's going to be a marathon, bro. You're going to be...
Yeah, but that's okay. I'll be ready
and
for
that's
it.
Fine.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I'm prepping myself for it. I just don't like the thought of waiting that long. That's the only reason why I'm doing it. If the games were to come out every 2 years, 3 years, be like whatever. But there's a stretch in between. And I'm not talking about these like halfway games. I'm probably not going to play those. I'm probably just going to play the main story.
Yeah, not do the... Well, by the time you play them, they'll probably start folding those like directly in to some of the releases and shit. Because like when they put them on the PC, Intergrade was tacked on to the remake side. But yeah, so Square Enix is kind of in a shitty spot right now. I mean, everyone is, but they're up against it because this was kind of their golden goose. Like 15 years ago, when you and I were having this podcast, and we would have been talking about Final Fantasy VII as a remake because it was in the zeitgeist at the time, and everyone was screaming and yelling about give us a Final Fantasy VII remake. That was because everyone was like, dude, the amount of money that you're leaving on the table not doing this is fucking insane. Do you know how much money you would make if you just fucking remade Final Fantasy VII? And they screamed that at them forever. And they're still, it's not that they're probably not going to make some money off of this.
Oh, they'll make money.
But the gamble on splitting up 7 into like 5 games and then releasing it over the course of 10 or more years and then charging $70 a pop and then only putting it on 2 platforms with timed exclusivity to one for a year ahead of time. Holy fuck, the gamble is real, boys. Now, we talked about this before, but that was, it probably looked good just pre-COVID when money was free flowing. And they were like, all right, we can do this. We got all this money. We can make this happen. That's what, they started this when money was just literally growing on trees.
Yeah, you print money for free.
And so now they can't. There
not
ain't
so free anymore.
There ain't no free money. The Japanese economy is literally in shambles right now, and they're not selling games as much as they need to either. So it's a bit of a hot mess. Oh, don't worry, Bousemaster. Don't worry about Mr. Black. He is currently deleting photos off of his phone.
I'm deleting photos. Trust me, I'm listening.
He's listening. He's looking down at his phone. He's listening, but he's looking at his photos to delete. Got to get ready for the new fancy car. But yeah, that's and the whole industry is just all fucked up. Did you see that Take-Two just closed a few studios that they bought out not too long ago? They got rid of a couple, including the studio that made like Kerbal Space Program, for example, was one of them. As part of some pretty big layoff rounds that Take-Two is going through. And I think this was to save, this was to save, I can't remember what the save total was. It was in the, hundreds of millions or something along those lines. It's a lot of money. But it was one that like a lot of people weren't expecting. Even in the midst of this, people were expecting some layoffs, I think, because everyone's expecting layoffs right now. But I don't think they were expecting that because, Take-Two is making what right now, Mr. Black?
They
underneath
are making,
Rockstar.
Yes. I mean, they're about to print.
They're
about to print.
Actual money machine.
Yes.
GTA 6 is about to have the GDP of most nations on Earth upon its release. And so when people saw them, Take-Two, the publisher, shutting all these other places down, while everything is just going all in on GTA 6, I mean, on one hand, I think people understand. Like, okay, I understand on paper why that's happening. Clearly, they're banking on GTA 6 as the big moneymaker, and they don't want to float anything that isn't going to make a whole bunch, a certain margin, let's say, on their projects. But then what annoys people is that a lot of these were companies that before they got bought out were making games that were profitable, being run by a smaller studio that could live with the fact that they weren't making $60 billion off of a single title. They could live with the fact that maybe the revenue or their profit was $5-10 million a year because they have 2 games that they make and those games make their money and everyone gets paid and they're still clearing a few million extra every year. But then they get bought up like everyone else did, and then they become extraneous. The publisher goes, nah, fuck it, and then just axes it. And then all of these other projects and all these other games that we used to have that were, again, perfectly fine on their own go bye-bye. So, like, on one hand, you get it from a high-level business perspective, like, okay, yeah, ones and zeros, you're putting everything on GTA 6. But it kind of fucking blows, dude. Like, as a gamer that likes to have, like that has liked many of the games that a lot of companies are being shut down after getting bought out by bigger companies and not utilizing them, like, at all, it kind of fucking blows. Just a little bit. Because we're getting, like, a lot of the same shit now. It's just kind of homogenous out there. And it's for that reason. It's similar with, I guess, movies. Although, when we've talked about this before, that's changing. Shout out to A24 for basically revitalizing half of the movie industry or more that was stuck behind Marvel for the longest fucking time. Did you see? I know this is not movies and TV. We're not even going to do segments. We're just going to fucking riff today. But I'm sure you saw that they were talking about, who was it? Was it Feige? Who was it that said that people didn't have superhero movie fatigue? There was some other reasoning. Did you see that quote this week? Fuck, what was that?
It might have been Kevin Feige. Sounds like something Feige would say.
I'm going to see if I can find that quote because that is a... Oh my God, that was like just this week.
I think I heard something about this too.
I just can't remember what they said. That it wasn't superhero movie fatigue. It was, I remember. They were blaming it on people no longer wanting to go to the theater.
That's right.
The culture. Yeah. I can't remember who said it. It might have been Feige. I can't remember. But they said, it was no longer a thing about superhero movie fatigue. It was, people don't want to go to the theater to watch movies anymore. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that quote?
I think from a surface level, you might come to that conclusion a little bit because there's a little bit of truth to people not going out to the theaters as much. I mean, we've gone through COVID, and people have really created new habits throughout those years. And theaters were shut down, and then even when they opened back up, there was still a lot of fear about COVID and all this. People just didn't oh, should I go into this closed area and blah, blah, blah. There's just, people were still apprehensive. And, a lot of people during COVID, they went out and bought big ass TVs and, they went out and bought houses and they upgraded
They bought everything.
They bought everything. They bought all the things, right? A lot of people. And there's tons of people that struggled big time. But, a lot of the moviegoers, they just adapted. And not only that, streaming services aided in this by, I know Warner Brothers at one point stopped putting out all of their movies theatrically and started putting them on, HBO Max and all this other shit. And so then people started creating a new habit of watching AAA movies or whatever you want to call them, like blockbusters at home day one. And they realized like, hey, I didn't have to pay $100 for me and my better half to go to the movie theaters and get some popcorn and drinks, and we didn't have to get a babysitter for the kids, and we didn't have to do any of that. We just watch it at home when the kids go to bed or whatever. Not only that, like TV got really good throughout those years. Like the quality of stuff like Netflix and all these other streaming services are spending ridiculous amounts of money to the point where they will not make a return on their investment. They're just doing it to be competitive and to get those subscriptions over other things. So there is part of it that is true. But it's very disingenuous to blame comic book fatigue or superhero movie fatigue on people just not wanting to go to the movie theaters, because inherently at the core, that's just false. When good movies come out, people go to the movie theaters. Look at Spider-Man No Way Home or whatever it was called. That shit made billions of dollars. Look at stuff like Avatar, billions of dollars. Look at Oppenheimer. Look at Barbie. Look at, and I'm just talking about in general now, like blockbusters. It has very little to do. I mean, there is some comic book fatigue. You put out 20 superhero movies and they're all generically bad, or you maybe have one gem, Guardians of the Galaxy or something. Like you got one quality superhero, maybe one or two in a 15 to 20 releases. And people are just tired of getting burned. Hey, I'll just fucking watch this at home when it comes to streaming. And also because of COVID, they lowered the theatrical window. So before it was like 3 months. Now most movies is 45 days tops. Sometimes it's 30 days. Sometimes it's streaming and the theater at the same time. This is unprecedented stuff that just never happened pre-COVID. It just didn't happen. And so these studios making the decision to still try and capture as much money as they could during the pandemic actually shot themselves in the foot, because they created a habit that they now don't want their consumers to have, because they want them to go back in the theater and pay exorbitant amounts of money on movie tickets. And so that not only the movie theaters can survive, but then also the films make money too. And the cost to make movies has gone up exponentially. And they've been on strike. So now their bottom lines are also took big hits, because they basically put movies and TV shows on hold for a considerable period of time, which costs a fuck ton of money. And, it's a combination of a whole lot of stuff. But the truth of the matter is, you put out a great movie that people want to see, or maybe even people didn't even know existed, and word of mouth goes around, the theaters will be sold out. The movie will do well. I mean, there are still movies making $1 billion plus that aren't Marvel films, Like, people will go to the theaters. It's just they're more selective on the films that they go. I'm the perfect example. I've been to 3 movies since September. 3! I used to go to the movies almost every week. No joke.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I know. I used to go pretty much every week, and then
pretty
you'd have
much
like
every
something
week.
else. Yeah.
At least twice a month. Now I'm just like,
So
I'll run out for Dune. I'll run out for big movies, but I ain't running out for, another fucking shitty Marvel film, bro. I'm not doing it.
I think so. Like towards just that last piece is what immediately came to mind for me. Thinking about it was like, man, for two things. The first thing that came to mind is, you're putting out Madam Web. Ain't nobody going to the fucking theater to see I'm sorry. These movies are bad. It's not superhero movie fatigue. It's super shitty movie fatigue. That's what they're experiencing right now. When's the last good superhero movie that came out after Endgame?
I mean, there's been a couple, but there hasn't been many. Like I enjoyed Shang-Chi. I enjoyed
it's a thin list.
Yeah, Spider-Man. I enjoyed Guardians. And I think that's it.
And those and like the weird thing about that, I suppose, is that two of those three were existing properties that were already destined to do well, right? Like Guardians was going to do well. Everyone's already on board with Guardians. Spider-Man is $1 billion every time you put it in the theaters. The only standout there, it was Shang-Chi in terms of, in the sense that Shang-Chi wasn't part of the phase, whatever the fuck, leading up to Endgame. And so that was a wholly new, very different, culturally separate entity.
And I mean, even that's a pretty generic Marvel movie. It just it just so happened to be the better of the generic. Is that a top 10 Marvel film of all time? No. But I will say I enjoyed it. I left the theater going, hey, that was something a little different. Yeah. And I think maybe it's just because culturally it was different. Course. You got to see an Asian lead actor. It had reminiscence of old Bruce Lee movies and other. They started taking some John Wick elements. It started, it was nice. But then in the last act, it became a CGI Marvel shit turd. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like it's the same thing, it was just a little bit better of the same.
So that was the first thing that came to mind, was like, it ain't a superhero movie. If all the superhero movies came out were as good as Homecoming or Endgame or what have you, or Guardians 2, 3, all of them are making $1 billion every fucking time. It's like you said, it's a good movie problem, and not every movie can be a good movie. Some of them are going to be bad. It just so happens right now, I think the next thing I thought of was, unfortunately for Marvel, with the exception of their mainstays like Spider-Man, they're really up against the wall because they're trying to reach now deeper into the comic basket that goes beyond household names. So, Spider-Man, Superman, I know Superman's not, but you know what I mean from a comic book perspective, Spider-Man, Superman, Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, these are all names that people know at home. Like the average person will have at least heard of all these things. You start bringing out Madam Web, even if it was a good movie, it's going to be a bigger hill to climb, because only the people that have been reading comic books for years or are invested in the comic book side would know who the fuck that is and
it's
give
like
a
Blue
shit.
Beetle and all these other side characters, and I actually enjoyed Blue Beetle for what it was.
It wasn't
but
bad.
I watched it here at home. I watched it at home. I ain't going to the fucking theater to spend money and take out a few hours of my day to go see it.
Now, if there was another Blue Beetle film, now that you've seen that one at home, maybe you would go to the theater to see that, because now you've taken some of the I don't know this character, I don't know if I'm going to like it, so I'll just watch it at home. Yeah. Now, if another one came out, maybe...
Another thing is for when it comes to Marvel, they've just had a horrible track record after Endgame, and the TV shows have been pretty lackluster. They've had a couple of good ones, but the vast majority have been pretty lackluster or just bad. And then when it comes to DC, they had the whole James Gunn leaving Marvel, coming over, rebooting everything, getting rid of all the main characters, but then they still had a couple of movies done. So they came out, Flash came out with the Ben Affleck and the fucking Michael Keaton, and that movie bombed fucking hard. I still haven't even seen it, probably never will, because you ask yourself too, none of this really matters. Like, we're getting a full reset. We're seeing a bunch of shit we don't really care for. The nostalgia factor of Michael Keaton is just not enough for me to go to fucking theater and watch a 2.5 hour Flash movie. They're just setting themselves. What happened? They all got complacent. They had the fucking rub, and they no matter what they put out, the fanboys and fangirls of these franchises just ran out in droves. Pretended movies were good when they weren't. It became this versus this. I'm going to go and support this team. I'm going to go and support this team. And then I think everybody just fucking woke up. They're like, dude, these movies are fucking trash. They're not good. They're bad.
Well, especially
really
the ones
bad.
towards the end, with the exception of, the Avengers films where they put obviously a lot more resources and time and energy into them. But because they were churning them out so quick, and because their special effects teams were literally bled dry, like they had no time to do anything at all. You go back and watch some of the first in that cycle, like with the Captain America films and whatnot, and then you go forward, you can find modern ones that look worse than the ones from like 10, 12 years previous. And that's just by nature of how many of these films they were cranking out. I do think as well, and we talked about this before, I think that they missed the opportunity to let everyone take a fucking breath after Endgame. They had a culturally significant, from a movie perspective, a culturally significant point with Endgame. That was a thing. You just wrapped up, against all odds, years and years and years and years and years of superhero movies, and somehow managed to stitch them, all of these people together, all these high-end actors, some of which that became A-listers because they were part of these films, got them all on screen at once and put this thing together in the 11th hour, and just knocked it out of the fucking park. The on your left scene, everyone coming through, every theater, pin drop, cheering, the whole nine. You won. But you gotta understand, that was like, it's euphoric, but then there's a come down on the other side of something like that. And they needed to just pump the fucking brakes and be like, okay, we need to go into the hyperbaric time chamber here, all right, for a little bit. Give it a couple years. And then when we got something real good, because now you've set the bar, like in the fucking stratosphere on that last one. If we're going to do this next phase and we're going to be bringing in new characters, we got to make sure that we hit the ground running huge. All they saw was dollar signs, more dollar signs, and they just kept going immediately and cranking shit out. And you can't, people weren't, literally, I don't think people had the energy after Endgame to go right back in and start from scratch. They just felt like they finished something and then immediately to go back in, and then, we're starting from ground zero all over again. That feels fucking terrible as a viewer. So I think that was part of it too. But I think the other piece of this that you were touching on as well, as somebody that used to go to the theater like weekly, is the types of movies that will get you into a theater have obviously dramatically changed. Where now the theater has to, as an experience, the theater has to be part of the equation, whereas before it wasn't as much the case. Where before, you might go see a drama or something along those lines that isn't like an Oppenheimer that has like a big screen, presence to it. Maybe you would go see that before, but now you just wait until it's on streaming services, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think that's probably really common. Like, you're not going to move a lot of people into a theater for, $50, for two people to go and watch, Adam Driver and who is it that he played against, Scarlett Johansson, screaming at each other on screen or whatever.
That's the whatchamacallit there.
Like the one where they divorce.
I forgot. I watched that movie.
Yeah.
But, I didn't go to the theater and see it, but
no, of course, because again, at this point, who's gonna do that? So there's that, and then you have A24, who's just sweeping in and saying, okay, a lot of people will still go to the theater to see a lot of stuff, but we also don't have to spend $700 million to make that happen. It's just not necessary.
$700 million.
Like, that's so, dude, the amount of money that they'd be spending on some of these fucking superhero films is
it's crazy, bro.
Crazy.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Like, what was the budget for Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Oh, it was small. I think that one was
sub 100 mil.
Oh yeah. Everything, everywhere. I want to say.
Was it
I want to
30?
say their budget was 30 million. I want to say could be 50, but let me see here. Everything, everywhere, all at once budget. Right. Between 14.3 and 25 million. But remember, they're gonna put in
It's
they're
advertising.
gonna do
and stuff.
advertisement, right? So
You
okay,
could
there
call
it
it
is.
30.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. $25 million budget. So
Okay, so call it 50. If they followed the traditional double the
between
budget for
40,
the.
I would say, I would say probably between 40 and 50 million, all in, like everything.
And that movie crushed, bro.
Yeah,
Crushed.
I mean, it did well. It made 150-ish million in the theaters, but they made big
that's
money
a long tail.
on the auxiliary, market afterwards, right? Like rentals, airplanes, fucking, they printed, bro.
Yeah.
This made a lot of money. This made a lot of money. Yeah.
And so that's, and so thank God that exists, but it's very reminiscent of the video game market, to bring it back to that for a second, because we're seeing these, like, if you want to call AAA, which AAA, if people don't know, more or less, the going idea is that it's kind of like a bonds related thing, where it was like a company's rating for an investment. A company could be AAA if you were going to invest. So the idea was similar. That's where that term comes from for the games. But then now it's more or less like more of an indicator of how much money and time are we spending on this game, is more of what AAA means now, like the flagship stuff. And now we're getting these, like, what I'm calling single A and double A, because if we're going to do it based on budget, if a AAA is without advertising, 200 million and up on a game, then double A is anywhere from, let's say, 50 to 100 million, maybe 50 to 50 to 100 million, and then a single A would be, let's call it 20 to 50. And those two markets in the last 9 months to a year have been crushing it. We got Pal World, which was made on 3 cents and a hand job. That's literally the amount of money being cranked out by that game is insane. They could sell 0 copies going forward and it wouldn't matter. They've made so much money off that fucking game.
They made so much fucking money, bro. They printed
so much money. And then we've got the one on PlayStation, Helldivers. I'm sure you've seen some of the streamers dipping into Helldivers.
Shit ton of people are playing that game. Apparently it's pretty good too. Like,
people
are having a lot of fun with it. So,
and it was never expected to do those kind of numbers, but the budget for that was, in the, let's call it 70 to 100 million, somewhere in that neck of the woods, maybe a bit more. It's on the double A line, and at the same time, we're watching a lot of AAA studios or AAA games release and just die in the water. And when those die, and you've spent that much money, you get one chance, and then your company is dead. Like, you got one shot. It's like every time you're listening to the fucking 8 Mile soundtrack, whenever you go into the fucking office, you got one shot, one opportunity. That's everything you ever wanted. You're gonna capture it,
one moment,
or just let it slip.
Or you're gonna let it slip. They captured it.
Every dev, palms are sweaty. So, that's kind of where things are at right now. True, like BioWare, for example, who back in 2010, around that era and previous, BioWare was one of the people would probably say that in that big 5, if you wanted to call it 5. And now they're like on their deathbed. They have Dragon Age coming up, and they have a Mass Effect game coming out sometime between now and the time you and I retire.
Yeah, BioShock is pretty much Dunsky, right? Like,
not BioWare, not BioShock, BioWare. BioShock is the game. I'm talking about BioWare, the company, the Canadian company that made Mass Effect and Dragon Age.
Okay.
BioShock is fucked.
Yeah, but did you hear that there's rumors that they could be doing a BioShock TV series?
I did see some rumors around that.
So they could be developing that, and I think we're gonna start seeing a lot more of that shit, because a ton of these, like, video game adaptations into series, like these things, I don't think work very. Yeah, I don't think they work very well as movies.
No,
but as TV shows, like a series, dude, these things are working. Let's just be real. The Last of Us and Fallout and all these other things, they are basically series themselves. Like they're very interactive. It's very, cutscene heavy, very story driven stuff. So I think we're going to just see a lot more of that coming up, especially now that it's starting to make money. And also on top of that, these studios, and I know we discussed that last week, but these studios are making shit tons of money on the back end as well, when a whole shit ton of new people find the IP and then they want to go play the games because they want more of that content. They're like, well, shit, let's go play the games. So it's a win-win, right?
It was like 5 million people playing Fallout games in one day.
That's right.
Off the back of Fallout.
Crazy.
And then the numbers came out for Fallout, the TV show, where it was the second highest watched ever for Prime. It was like, I can't remember, dude. The numbers were huge on view counts in the first week or whatever for that movie or that show. It was second only to their what was it, the Lord of the Rings thing that they did. So it was second. Imagine Fallout second only to the Lord of the fucking Rings.
That's crazy.
Huge. That's crazy.
Massive.
So, I agree. I think you're going to see a lot more of that, especially since it's been shown that it's done well. I think that you have to, appreciate that the ones that seem to do well are the ones that don't try to recreate the wheel for these for the games. They stick pretty close to what the games actually represent within reason. You have to make some, you have to make some changes when you convert anything to TV, even in, in the grand scheme of things. So, but still, man, Fallout doing huge. And in fact, this week, in tying to that, I did a little video on this as well, talking about it. The Microsoft is apparently, very interested in finding a way of capitalizing on this and making a move on getting a Fallout game faster than is previously or has been previously planned.
Well, they gotta be careful with that, because you start rushing some shit. I mean, this thing can backfire pretty quick.
Yeah,
if they want a quick fix. And they want to try and cash in real quick, but you got to be careful that you're not hurting your core audience as well. The ones that even made your shit, successful to begin with.
100%. I think the road to take in this instance, you're not going to see them hand Fallout 5 off to somebody that's not Bethesda. That's not going to happen. Yeah. However, and we know, for example, that Bethesda is working on Elder Scrolls 6. That's probably coming out 2028 in that neck of the woods. Which means Fallout for them is probably 2035 before Fallout 5 comes around. It's almost going to be 10 years from now before you see it. And so what are their options? Well, in the past, they went through Obsidian to make Fallout New Vegas, which is one of the most popular Fallout titles, and it is not made by Bethesda, but it's an offshoot, right? So I think they got some options. We know as well, the show has been renewed for season 2. It's getting at least a season 3. This is probably going to be a 3 or 4 season thing, which means you probably have 4 to 5 years of lead time to capitalize on the show's popularity or ongoing viewership to try and convert. So if you can turn something around in, let's say, three years, that's probably good. And what can you do in 3 years? Well, a lot of people are suggesting, why don't they go back and hire a team to remaster Fallout 3? Because Fallout 3 is really hard to play on a PC right now. It does not like modern hardware very much at all in a lot of systems. It's quite fucking finicky. It was finicky when it launched, but now it's just it's become a bit of a rat's nest. It's not too bad if you play it on an Xbox, because they've put a lot of effort into making sure that it runs relatively stable. But Fallout 3 as a remake or a remaster, it wouldn't be a ground up remake per se, would probably be not a bad idea. I think that would do well. And you could do that in 3 years. You could pay somebody and say, hey, you got 3 years, go have some fun, make it happen. I think that's probably what we would more likely see. Obviously, you're not going to get Fallout 5 in the span of 3 years. Not the rate that it takes to fucking make games. As somebody, I will say this was funny this week. On Twitter, one of the more prominent video game, I don't know if I want to call him a journalist. I guess you call him a journalist. I think it was Jez, which I guess you have to call him a journalist anyway. I don't even know what a journalist is anymore these days with the way online is.
Somebody with a microphone,
somebody with a microphone, yeah. So we're journalists here. So Yeah, they're saying that, maybe the idea is to give Bethesda a whole bunch more resources to get this done so that they can make Fallout in tandem, theoretically, alongside of Elder Scrolls. And I was just in my head, I'm thinking, I responded. I said, what resources are we talking about here? Because last time I checked, Starfield cost $200 million, $400 if you include advertising. They ain't getting any more money than $400 million. I can promise you that right now. And they took 7.5 years with 500 developers to make Starfield.
Dude, that game underperformed. I mean, that game was that's a swing and miss. You will not get another one of those games. They're gonna fall right back to Fallout. And that's going to be the motherfucking show. I'm going to tell you that right now.
And you know what? Todd came out and he said, I think I understand why. You saw that? It's because it's too much. It's too different from our other games. And I was like, pause. Actually, no.
Bro.
Actually, it's a lot like your other games. It was just that you took the parts of your other games that weren't the good ones and did all of that. And then made it really mediocre. People are getting excited right now in the Starfield community because they put a patch out where they have city maps.
Ooh. You mean to tell me that wasn't a thing when the game came out?
No, there was literally zero map. You were in a town and you opened, there's no map. Zero. And then the world maps were like a dot matrix map, bump map, that was impossible to fucking read. And so you had nothing. So, I mean, it was in shambles. So I said, what resource are we talking about here? It can't be people. It can't be money, and it can't be time. So what are you going to do about what exactly do you think is going to happen here for resources? So you can't do that. That's not going to happen.
The resources is copium. That's the resource that they're on right now. All of it.
It's a lot of copium.
Pumped with copium. It's all copium.
Straight raw to the main vein. Yes, copium. Bro. Copium. I got a question for you, Mr. Black. As somebody that doesn't get to play very many games these days, other than selling black tar heroin on the streets of Grand Theft Auto, I know that you're getting into as this will eventually wind down, and let's call it. I think both of us have, before we're out, we're probably both good for another 5, I would say, before we're out the game, unless we just do it as a hobby.
5 more. I don't know if I mean,
no. I mean, like, as from like a hobbyist perspective, like, I don't mean at the hours that you're doing now. I mean, like, pulled back, because I think both of us are going to have a hard time not just occasionally turning it on and chilling, right? That's a different. It's a different. We'd enjoy that because now it's not like, oh, I have to make money today. I'm just whoever shows up. We're just chilling, right? So a couple, we got some time left, but as that comes, you're probably going to start wanting to play a wider variety of games again. Variety is the spice of life. What kind of games do you think, or do you feel like you're going to be interested, or that you would like if you didn't have to turn on Grand Theft Auto every day right now? Even though I know you enjoy the RP, especially lately, it's been pretty good for you, from what I understand. What is it? What do you think that you would wake up in the morning, or you got some free time, you're done doing all your other stuff? What do you think that you'd be drawn to in the current market of games? What is anything calling to you? Like, are you somebody that would like check out Helldivers, or are you somebody that would be like more of an offline thing? Do you think you would just basically only do StarCraft until another game came out in an RTS, or do you think you'd spread out a little bit? Has anything ever kind of interested you, but you're just like, I just can't play this right now?
I think I think I'll probably play. Probably would pick up some good RPGs. I mean, I've always enjoyed RPGs. I just don't enjoy them when I can't commit to them. So if I know I can't commit 40, 50, 60, 70 hours to a game without feeling guilty or feeling a certain way, like, oh man, I play this fucking game, I got 20% of my normal viewership, like, people are fucking checking out, like, I just don't. It just is not appealing. It sucks the fun out of it because I'm just like, I'm in such a work mode that I can't just shut it off. So I'd probably pick RPGs, or I'd probably play some more games like The Last of Us. more story-driven games that are mature, that kind of give me almost like a TV show feel or fix.
Like Alan Wake 2,
and then of course,
like, for example,
Alan Wake
like
2,
that kind of neck of the woods.
Those types of games, right?
Yeah,
I like horror games, but I also just think it depends on what my son's into, because I think ultimately I'm gonna probably switch my gaming focus more so to him and play sort of, I think,
like what can you play with him kind of a situation becomes,
right? Or have him watch me play and kind of interact with. That's probably the route that I'm going to go, because I am getting older too, bro. Like, I'm fucking pushing 40 years old sooner than later.
That's ancient.
You know, but I mean, in a gaming thing, you know, 5 years from now, be in my, you know, early to mid 40s. You know, I don't know.
Because if you don't have that, what, like obviously, you know, you're gonna always have to have a hobby of some kind. Like, it's not just work all the time, right?
I honestly think I'll enjoy watching film and shows more than I will playing video games. And, you know, in a perfect world, I think, or not in a perfect world, but I think you would think, because I play video games for a living and I've always loved video games since a young age, that when I retire from full-time gaming and I don't have the shackles, like the golden handcuffs on from streaming, that I would immediately rekindle my love for games and do it for me. And I think part of that is probably true, but if I'm being real about it as well, I think there's probably going to be part of me that won't even want to play that many games, because it will remind me of the career that I've had and that I no longer have. And I think that there's probably part of it will be me almost running away and almost trying to forget the life that I had as a content creator when it comes to video games. So I think I'll probably play them more so with my son and get that enjoyment through him and pass on those sort of things, opposed to doing it for me. If I'm, you know, if I want to get deeper about how I probably would really feel about video games when this all ends, it's easy for me to say now, oh yeah, man, when I'm no longer doing this, I fucking play whatever games I want. I'll just chuck it in and blah, blah, blah. I don't know, man, because I'm the type of guy that when I'm into something, I'm all in.
Yeah, of course.
I you know, the hobbyist parts of video games is like, I don't know, man. And am I going to really waste a lot of my time playing video games all the time and not finding another passion in life and, you know, those sort of things? Probably not. I'm probably not going to want to spend a lot of my free time playing video games. But who knows? I mean, my son might be like the fucking the next gamer. I mean, this kid, he's probably upstairs right now. I'm fixing my mic. Probably upstairs right now playing video games. I mean, this is what he does. I mean, his dad plays games for a living. He is ingrained in it. He comes downstairs every day to look at the wall of games and grab stuff to take upstairs every day. So there's a love of it for him. And if he loves it, I'm probably going to love it as well. But if it's for me, I'm probably going to want to only play very specific things that really call to me. And then outside of that, I'm probably wipe my hands clean with this.
It's a really it's a really interesting thought. Like, I ask because, you know, I think about it too occasionally, is if I wasn't streaming, even as a hobby, like, so if you take the money part out of it, if I wasn't streaming and doing content creation of any kind and just being involved because I've always enjoyed the business of the games industry as well, you know, what would I do? Like, like, I always think of, like, what would draw my attention? What would be the replacement? Because something has to come in. You know, eventually I'm going to have a child myself. Obviously, that chews up a lot of time, no doubt.
Yes.
But you always have some small side hobby thing of some kind. You got to squeeze in things. And I thought about it. I was like, man, you know what? Part of it is almost certainly is that if I lived somewhere where the weather was better year round, I probably would get the headphone
going.
Yeah,
the headphone indent.
I probably would be doing other things more frequently that were like outside and shit. But the thing is here, I've never been a winter sports person. I hate winter sports. So especially during the winter time and I'm inside, I'm staying warm, doing whatever. Gaming is like, that's like the one hobby thing. If you're not, maybe do a workout, you don't have to because you're shoveling the fucking driveway. And then, whatever, you're just hanging out. And like your two options are, or your three options predominantly are read a book, watch movies or television or play some games and wait for the winter to end. I always wonder, I'm like, how much gaming would I do at this stage of my life if I was somewhere else? I understand why a lot of people are poking fun to a degree about this. I understand why a lot of the streamer guys are getting into golf. You notice how all of them all of a sudden are golfers now?
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. I think it's they're living in a place where they can get away with that. They can golf year round. Yes. And it's not just because they got the money to go golf, although golf can be an expensive hobby to have. You don't have to go to fucking crazy courses all the time. But it gets them out of the house. It's not gaming. And it's something that they can do year round. Whereas here, you don't got that kind of option. You're just like, right. You don't have year round options like that necessarily. So it changes things a bit. But I always wonder, I'm like, man, what would even draw my attention?
Dude, I'm probably gonna just try and travel with the family a little bit more, enjoy more family-related stuff. The more I think about it, this is gonna sound super hypocritical and almost, I hope nobody gets offended by it, but like, I actually think playing video games is primarily a waste of life. Like, I actually feel like it's and I mean that in the most,
well, it's similar to anything that's entertainment specific.
It feels correct. It feels like if I wasn't being paid to play, there's no way I'd spend this much time playing games.
Oh, it would be way shorter.
Not even a third.
Shorter.
Not even a third. Like, I probably should rephrase it a little bit different. I don't think it's a waste of life, but to do it so much.
Yeah.
You are sacrificing something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I think if I were to play games, like, honestly, I'd be doing it to bond with my son. So that really wouldn't be a waste in my opinion, because it's father-son time. But at the same time, like, am I going to sit in the basement and play, games for 8 to 10 hours a day because I'm really enjoying a game? I don't know. Maybe for very specific releases where I'm like super excited about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But for me to play video games 40, 50 hours a week, bro, there's no way. I mean, it's just, there's just there's no shot. I think if I could get in a week, 5 or 6 hours, I think that's a good fucking week of playing video games, man. Most weeks. Like, that seems like a reasonable amount. If I go to 15, 20 hours a week, even as a retired gamer, like a professional gamer, whatever you want to call it, I just feel like that's a waste of time. Especially if I'm not getting paid. And I think even more so because I'm so used to being paid.
Yeah,
so
if
I'm not now being paid,
like, what am I doing?
Really have a screwed up mindset on where it is. How many times have we seen like motivational speeches or people on the internet going, hey, man, don't play video games, man. It's a rot your life away. You're fucking wasting your life away. And then I'm scratching my head. I'm going, well, I mean, look what I've done. I mean, is that necessarily a waste? But then at the same time, there is some truth to it, because if you're not actually, if you're not actually getting any monetary gain from it, and you're starting to sacrifice things in your life to be able to play games all the time, maybe there's some truth to that. You know what I mean? It's no different than sitting and watching Netflix all day. You know, I love
that's
film
looked at differently. That's always looked at differently than playing games. For some reason, the playing games thing.
It's the same thing. It's an escape. You know what I mean?
It's any form of escapism taken too far is obviously going to be considered more of a waste of time than doing something else.
Yeah.
But then that also, but I suppose it also depends on, what does the individual consider a waste of time? Like, some people, you take the game away, it's not like they're going to suddenly go outside or learn a new language.
That's true.
They're not going to plug in something else. Some people, that could be the case, right? Where you take that away and there's other things, but, they're attached to it for whatever reason, and then that would change. But, if you take that away, it's not like everyone that you take a game away from. Just like if you took away anything else, they'd suddenly pick up a book. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
But it is, there. I think that like anything, if you're not getting paid to do something, and it's not enriching your life, and everyone has to draw a line about what is enriching your life and what isn't, and everyone knows. I think internally, that's the difference. Inside your head, when you're staring at the back of your eyelids, at night,
what's up. Yeah.
Are you wasting your time, or are you just doing it because you really do enjoy it and you find like it's adding something? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not, dude. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with video games. Like playing video games, having a love for it, dude. I love video games. I have a passion for it. I'm just trying to think. After all this, am I really gonna be gaming fucking even 20, 25 hours a week? Probably not.
No.
There might be a week or two in the year where that happens.
Well, I mean, think about it. Even during the time where you and I were together as kids playing games, we didn't do 40 hours of gaming a week. That didn't happen. No. There would be selective days if it was a rainy day, or if we were really hung up on a game and it was a weekend or something, where we'd do like we'd do like a 6-8 hour day, right? Yeah. But most of the time, that wasn't like we'd be outside or doing something else. It wasn't like the primary thing. It was like an additive part of life. But obviously, when you change and you're making money off it, now you got to do a 40, 50 hour. But there are people out there, and I do get a little concerned for them, that aren't getting paid to play games, that are playing 40 to 50 hours of games a week. And that might be, I'm not going to say a waste of time, but it might be a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It might be a problem.
And it's probably a waste of time. At least a portion of that is probably a waste of time. I think a portion of that is probably time well spent. You're kind of, relaxing, vibing, fucking blowing off some steam, enjoying yourself. Fucking, you work hard. You're just, this is what you do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of worse things that you can do than fucking sit in the house and play video games. It's not like I'm coming down hard on people that fucking play video games so much, but at the same time, there is a line, and you kind of know what that line is, especially if you've got a, the way I look at it is if I got a family, and I'm more wanting to just sit in the fucking basement and play video games.
Bro, if you got a family and you're finding 40 hours a week to play games, now you definitely got a problem, and you got several at that point. Yeah. But I think most people playing that many, even if they're not getting paid, are people that are just going to a job, getting paid, going home. They're not in a relationship at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have anything else going on, and that's their escape, and they're just crushing all of their extra time is that. Yeah. And but it is like if you got 50 hours, at least find a form of cardio that you enjoy, for fuck's sake. Like, I don't know, get on a bike.
You're doing 40 hours a game in a week.
Go swimming or something.
It's not your job. Like, just take out 5 hours of that just to
exercise
for your,
a bit,
like physical health.
Yes,
you do that, and like
you're good.
There you go.
You're good.
There you go. World of Warcraft isn't going anywhere. Trust me, it's been around for fucking almost 2 decades. You'll be okay. It'll be here.
Dude, that game is an institution. For real, World of Warcraft still going is insane to me, and the number of people that are still playing it is just crazy. Do you think that there will ever be a new round of MMOs that dominate the way that did, or do you think that was a moment in time?
It's a moment in time. It was right place, right time. But the whole video game sphere has changed, right? Like the whole model has changed. World of Warcraft is very successful even now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's still, it's not what it as be. But I mean, dude, who cares at this point?
A lot of people would die to be World of Warcraft, at the end of the day, as far as what they're making.
And it's the reason why the vast majority of MMOs fail, because it's just the time has passed, right? There are probably 5 MMOs out there that actually do well, that have a big audience, and
I think Helldivers is and maybe Monster Hunter are a good example of where I think it's not an MMO, because I don't know if MMOs in the pure sense will work anymore, but I think games that include the ability to participate in an online community, to work together on things that like flirts with the edges of what an MMO are, but is more of a service game like a Helldivers, where everyone that's in it is working towards a singular goal, but they don't have to engage with everyone all the time. They can choose how much or how little they're engaging with people. and with Monster Hunter, similarly, online component to that, that is very community driven. I think that's kind of the future of things, where it's not just purely MMO, go kill 5 chickens, come back, go out, fucking, like you do with you get your cape in fucking RuneScape. It's not, I don't think it's going to be that anymore, but, moving into more community focused service games, I think is probably what we're going to see more of in the future. I think that's a good spot to do a little sellout, Mr. Black. How you sell out for us there, Mr. Black?
It's patreon.com/lagtv. Head on over there. Throw some money at the screen if y'all want to support the podcast. It's a great way to support what we do. So we just keep doing the podcast at the very bare minimum. I mean, we're doing StarCraft as well. That's still trucking along, and channel is slowly growing again. We might, do you think maybe we get a second 100,000 subscriber plaque? For hitting this again,
bouncing every time you dip and come back,
like 8,000 subs below, and now we're starting to. I think this time next year we'll probably be at the 1K or 100K again. I mean, you never know, right? But yeah, no, big shout out, thank you everybody that's supporting. And then if you want to support the sponsor directly, we have NordVPN. Stay safe, stay anonymous on the internet. Watch different regions of Netflix and other streaming services at the click of a button. Doesn't matter if you're traveling, you're in the comfort of your own home. You should have anonymity. You should protect yourself when you are on the web. And you can use up to 6 simultaneous devices, so you only need 1 account per household. You can hook them up to your iPhones, your Androids, like what Adam has, your Macs, your PCs, your laptops. I mean, your routers. You can connect it to anything, pretty much. So yeah, go check that out. Click the link in the description of the video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to RSS feeds, it is nordvpn.com. So nordvpn.com/OTT. When you go to that link, promo code should automatically be entered. So when you get a 2-year subscription, you get an extra 4 months, which is bringing down your monthly average price down even more. And it is less than half a cup of coffee at Starbucks a month. So very affordable. Fast servers, you can game on them, stream on them, game and stream at the same time. Super easy to use, click of a button type stuff. You do not need to be a programmer. You literally just need to know how to download the app on the phone and click a button. I mean, if you can work Twitter or X or Facebook or Instagram, you will speed through this app. It's super easy to use. Simple stuff. So go check them out. It's a great way to support us, the sponsor, and yourself all at once. That's again nordvpn.com/OTT.
Hell yeah. There's no movies and TV to talk about this week per se, other than what we just talked about.
I'm watching Shogun right now.
Okay, so give us the movie and TV spiel real quick then. Give us the jingle.
I'm watching Shogun. I'm 3 episodes in.
How are we feeling?
I'll start the 4th episode tonight.
Yeah.
So far so good.
Okay.
So far so good.
Okay.
I think the writing is pretty good. I mean, I love samurai type shit, because like the whole culture of it is just so.
Well, the culture that's been converted into the Hollywood version.
Yes. I get that.
Nevertheless,
like they fluff it up and they do the Hollywood shit. But I mean, dude, just the whole Japanese samurai, how honorable they are, like the principles that they have, and to the point where they will literally
to a fault,
themselves.
Really.
Exactly. Like if they feel like they have been a dishonor, they will go to the extremes. Not advocating for that type of that sort of stuff.
Seppuku is not something that everyone needs to experiment with.
No, not at all. But what I'm saying, but it's the
idea of it.
It's the ideals. To have such strong convictions on what you believe in. There's just something you don't see that as much in our way.
Oh, there's something romantic to me about
it. Yes.
About well, not just the samurai whole thing that's in Hollywood, but in when I studied Japanese culture in university as an elective, I was very lucky. I had a wonderful professor who went went to Japan originally to learn Japanese tea ceremony, and when he got there, he loved it so much that he lived there for fucking about 20 years or something, and he became a very high level translator for government in Japan, and that he was my Japanese culture. So that was like, I couldn't have asked for a better professor for it. And so, you know, I got to, it was also a good thing to do because a good thing to have because it allowed me to draw the line between Hollywood Japan and Japan,
like real Japan.
Yeah.
And
which was a very healthy thing because, you know, it is true, you know, there's a, just like for them, like in the reverse, they're romanticizing the Western philosophy, and many people there are the way that we, you know, romanticize theirs. And it's because we're getting a very spit-shined version, right, of what that is. But yeah, I think very romantic is a way of romantic is a good word for it for sure. Yeah. And I find a lot of romance both in what's on, you know, the Hollywood side, but also in general about the Japanese culture, that about finding something that you are either good at or at least or enjoy, good at, or at least have some kind of proclivity for, and even if you don't, having the discipline to just master a small subset of things or one thing and be really fucking incredibly good at that one thing. And over here we are often separate from that or different from that, where we preach individuality in the respect that we should be able to do everything ourselves. Yeah. And when you do that, it means a lot of people become jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, Swiss Army knives. And it's the problem is Swiss Army knife is fine, but you're not you don't have a specialty in anything. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not the master of anything. And so the Shogun, I'm really enjoying it. I think I think it's filmed really well. The music's great. The action, the actors and actresses are fantastic. You know, it's not whitewashed or anything like that. You can tell it's authentic. You know, it's kind of like.
Well, that was the only reason what's his name would do it. I think originally he was saying was basically that he wanted to ensure that it wasn't going to be, you know, they weren't going to
whitewash
fuck with it.
Yeah, say what it is. Yeah, like, you know, turn it into this, you know, American fucking, you know, thing. Now, one of the main characters is white. You know, just like The Last Samurai and stuff like that. But they do a very good job at you know, introducing this character and almost like, you know, the fish out of water type thing. Like, oh my god, like, you know, what am I getting myself into type thing. But yeah, so far so good. I think the show's gonna be fire overall because it's starting to really ramp up, and it's one of these shows that at the end of every episode they kind of give you more and more taste. And more, and now you're like, okay, I gotta watch the next one. The next thing you know, it's like midnight. You're like, fuck, I had to turn this shit off. So that's where I've been. Okay. So I would say by this time next week, the show will be done for sure. And I'll give you guys my final thoughts on that. But that's pretty much what I've been watching as of late. And then after that, I'm gonna watch the three body point or three body problem. 3 body problem. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out, and then I'm gonna do Fallout.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I watched all Fallout with them. I think I already mentioned this before, but
yeah, you did. Yeah, you said you enjoyed it. Yeah,
good. Yeah. I enjoyed it, and it was. But you know what? And try to watch it with Kayla because I'll be interested to see what she thinks of it as well. Because obviously zero attachment to the game. She played the mobile Fallout fucking game when we were in the Philippines. That was that was like Fallout Shelter. Like that was her exposure to the franchise of Fallout, and she really enjoyed it. And so. You know, and so, you know, very, very good in that it pleased me. I'm not a diehard Fallout fan, but I think that was good because I could appreciate what they changed to a degree to make it work for TV without getting upsetty spaghetti about it. Which was a line that the Halo series failed to find. They did a really bad job of straddling the line between sticking to the actual story and lore and then, you know, repurposing it for television. Fallout did a really good job with that. So very interested to see how you feel about that when you get around to it. I watched heard from her coworkers who I'm learning to, as time goes on, trust less and less with their opinions. Because she was like, all the coworkers at the island told me that like, we should watch this show over here. I was like, oh, okay, what's the show? And she told me the name of the show. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I heard like a community member talking about this. I think I saw somebody on Twitter talking about it. I was like, okay, so we were going to play we were playing, it was Scrabble night. So we had the Scrabble board out in the living room. We turn on our show to watch in the background. And it's Baby Reindeer. And have you heard about this show in passing or anything yet?
No.
Okay, so just read the synopsis. I promise the synopsis will tell you almost fucking nothing about what you're going to experience watching the show. But you can just read the synopsis. Try not to spoil yourself because there's a lot of, if you do end up watching it,
I won't.
You might
sure.
you're probably you would I think you might bounce off of it. Wow. What do you say about Baby fucking Reindeer? I will say this. Acted very well. Written very well. Tackles some very difficult subject matter. But it was hard to watch at times, not because of the subject matter, but because it was like, depending on the type of person that you are, and apparently this is very much apparently a true story, apparently, which is insane. But Em is worse about this than I am, but when I watch something and yeah, the main actor in this is the guy that apparently, like, most of this stuff that happens in the show happened to in real life. It's a very interesting combination of art meeting real life in this thing, which props to him for even telling anyone on this kind of a platform, although I think they probably figured out that it was actually worth a fair amount of money on Netflix, which is not a bad move. Because it's so insane. Fucking bonkers, dude. Fucking insane. Every time you think you've sorted out what is happening, nah, you don't know. It's crazy. It's nuts. I will say that for me it was difficult because in knowing that it was a true story made it even more difficult, because when I watch a movie and I see a character that's making consistently the absolute worst decisions imaginable, just like, and you know they know it's the worst decision imaginable, and they just do it over and over again. Eventually, that starts to grate on me a bit, and I start to get a little fucking frustrated. Like, I don't want to watch this person or this character make another shit fucking decision. Mistake. So, like, that's
it's like
dude,
watching a train wreck. It's like,
that show is
fuck.
one giant consistent train wreck. Now, in fairness, again, tackles incredibly difficult subject matter. And does it, I think, very deftly. I think they did a great job with it, written very well and acted very well, like I said, but very, very challenging to watch. I can understand why a lot of people are talking about it, but yeah, I think you would probably bounce off of it around episode 4 and probably never watch any more of it. But yeah, we watched that, so that was definitely a whole ass experience. And then we watched, was it you that brought up?
You know what I wish you'd watch, bro? And
what?
It's not reality TV. It's
what?
An actual show.
Okay, what is it?
I wish you'd watch Succession.
Oh, Succession.
It's one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, Succession.
It's better than Breaking Bad.
It
might actually be my favorite TV show of all time. I actually can't think of a show that I've enjoyed more than Succession.
Is Succession's
better than Game
the
of
one
Thrones.
with Kieran Culkin, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've seen a couple episodes of it, just in passing, and they were, the show looks fantastic.
It is something special, man.
Yeah.
Like, watching that from start to finish, like, talk about a show you binge, like, and you have no choice. It's like you literally have no choice. Like, there's only 24 hours in the day, but for whatever reason, you can now do 30-hour days, like, out of nowhere. You're like, where did these extra 6 hours come from? I have no idea, but I'm rolling with it. I enjoyed it more in Game of Thrones. I enjoyed it more in House of Dragon. I enjoyed it more in Breaking Bad. I enjoyed it more than any other show. And those are all good shows on their own right. But this just, dude, it's
better than season 1 of True Detective.
Yes, it's not even close.
Fucking really?
It's not even close. Not and
That's
I'm
tough.
not gonna sit here and just hype the thing up like crazy. I mean, dude, if you go and listen to any review of Succession,
Everyone praises it.
you look it up,
Everyone.
it shit is, dude.
Was it an HBO show?
HBO.
Yeah.
It's fucking
Go figure.
incredible. And
Go figure.
it's a show that gets you to think. It's smart, it's funny, it's witty, it's dark, it's real, it's unapologetically authentic, and it's like it's just watching very wealthy people do horrible things for and to each other. It's such a drama. It is the biggest. It's so good, and it the length of the show, it knew when it was starting to become repetitive or the it factor was going
dragging. Yeah,
it was but it never did drag. It just like it knew where it needed to stop, and it stopped at such the perfect time. The last season was just incredible. It was just so good. I'm telling you, bro. I mean, I don't know how much M would enjoy it. I don't know what
that
her
would be my
taste is.
That would be my hurdle. Is that she would probably watch it and knowing the subject matter of it, not the idea for her of just watching a bunch of rich people at each other's throats the whole time would probably not be her first choice for what she would want to watch.
But I will tell you, you will get used to it, and you will. You will. It's almost like almost like voyeur type shit where you're
you're a fly on the wall watching all this stuff happen
and seeing shit that like you hear about but you don't actually see, but now you're really seeing it. What do these people really say behind closed doors? You know what I'm saying? Like when you think of somebody like rich politicians or rich CEOs of these huge, like, you know, what are the conversations that Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Donald Trump or Barack Obama or a fucking whoever, these big polarizing characters or people that have these huge monumental jobs or they have this like fear factor about them. They there's just something mysterious, and then the curtain is pulled and you see what it is, and the things that you think that they're like, for some of them it is, and then for some of them you're like, whoa, totally didn't see that going on. And there's just a lot of stuff that is so well written, and there's so much humor in it. It's almost like a comedy. It's like it's like if Modern Family, that TV show, were just a bunch of rich, wealthy people, but not as campy, but like serious, but also funny at the same time. Like there's characters in this, it's literal comedians, but it's done so tastefully that it doesn't feel like you're watching a comedy. It's like it's just so
It sounds like an elevated version of Suits.
Oh, for sure. I mean, dude, this is like, if you enjoyed Suits, you've seen Suits, right?
Suits, yeah, I've seen almost all of Suits. Suits was pretty good.
So I'll tell you right now, if you enjoy Suits, even a little bit, so like say you gave Suits a 7 out of 10, you're like, okay. The problem with Suits is it became very repetitive.
Suits overstayed its welcome by a long shot.
Yeah, and it big time.
Yeah.
But when the show does well, right, they just keep pumping it out. It's the same thing with House. You remember the doctor show House?
Yeah. Overstayed its welcome.
Fantastic show, but it became very repetitive. Like it's the same sort of shit. With Succession, it cuts itself off before it gets to that stage where you're almost regurgitating the same storylines. But like there are callbacks to old storylines from previous seasons that kind of tie in, and it works. Succession is Suits, but serious, with way better writing, way better acting, and it's an HBO show, right? So it's like, think of it as the great writing of the show that you brought up, the season 1 of
True Detective. Yeah.
But you put that into a show that's similar to Suits. Man, it is. And it's the dialogue. There's no real action in the film. Like, yeah,
No, it's
things
entirely
happen.
dialogue based.
There are deaths and there are things that go on and there are things that happen, but it's a show that it's the writing. It's the writing. It's like the good stuff of House of Dragons without the fighting. And you're basically watching Game of Thrones within a family. They're literally out to kill each other pretty much and take each other down and fuck each other. But like they love each other. It's so good. I'm gonna watch it again. Eventually, I'm gonna let some time pass, and I'm gonna sit down and binge it again. It is really something special. You would love the show. I know you would.
Oh, I'm sure I would. I'll see if I can convince him, because the only time I watch anything these days is if we're watching something together, because otherwise I just don't have the time to do it.
Yeah, I get it.
But if I can convince her, I'll absolutely. I'll
Ask her to give it a shot. Right? Watch the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Listen,
I think
I had to watch Baby Reindeer. We're gonna give Succession.
Okay, there you go. There you go. And I'm going to tell you right now, this show is going to be infinitely better than fucking Baby Reindeer.
I mean, Baby Reindeer was really well done, but it was just like, it was not an easy watch. That was a fucking tough. Yeah. Oh my God. That was a tough watch. What was I going to say? There was something else. Oh, was it you that brought it up to me, that show where they were doing the prison thing, where they were letting everyone out?
Yeah. I'm still watching that. I'm on episode, I think 5 or some shit.
Yeah,
so we start watching that.
Yeah, it was like what we turned on when we were playing Scrabble again the other night, and we watched 1 or 2 episodes of that. I think it was maybe just the first episode and change. And oh my God, dude.
Oh, bro, it gets bad, bro.
It's everything that I expected to happen, because really, how else would you expect this to go? It would be one thing. Here's the thing. I actually think the experiment is a worthwhile experiment to a degree.
I agree.
The problem is they put fucking cameras on them.
Yeah.
And
so they want to show off. They want to show out. They got
bro.
nothing to lose. You know, it's
and like
and they know this though. But they know this. They're
yes, of
TV,
course.
Man.
Yeah.
They know this. Right?
Well, the TV side knows that, but like the warden to do it, like he knew ahead of time this wasn't going to do shit. He was just taking some money off the top of this bitch. But like, but the experiment, the idea, I think is fine. It would be very difficult even without the cameras. But you know, the whole mentality of not allowing somebody else to disrespect you, in like, even if you could attempt to fucking, some of the times they call disrespect the most most passive shit imaginable, but then you put that on a camera and now it's just like, it's a game on 24/7.
And you ain't gonna take it because, like, you know, all these people are watching.
Yeah.
You don't want to look like a bitch. You know, you're a fucking hardened criminal. What, you think you're gonna punk me on Netflix, pussy? Is that what you think? Nah, bro. Nah.
Dude, because it's the first episode.
Real,
that dude that's like just a domestic violence guy, the white guy that gets.
Yeah, bro, he's trouble. That guy's trouble.
That dude's a troublemaker. Well, M was like, M was having a hard time watching it because M's watching it and she's like, that person's got mental issue. That person's got mental issue. Like, she was like, half these people shouldn't even be in prison. Half of them should be in a ward somewhere. That guy's one of them. That dude, she said, is so like watching everyone, like, yeah, he's a dick and he's trolling everyone.
Yeah.
But she was like, he don't even know what the fuck he's doing. He's just there. Like, he's just like, she says, I got people like this all the time in the ward. And so it's them beating the shit out of him. It's not going to stop him. And I'm sure as the episodes go on, he's still an absolute idiot. 100%. And so it's never going to fucking change. And so all you're doing is just watching some dude get stuck in the prison system, getting his shit can kicked because he's got mental issues, but because he's not like super obviously mentally disturbed, all the prison inmates just see him as an asshole. They don't see him as a dude with mental issues.
They don't see him as a mentally, unstable individual. And you kind of like, there's part of you that feels bad for some of these guys.
Yeah, of course.
You're just like, dude, like, god damn. It's like you were set up to fail, bro. Like you 100%. Don't stand a chance in here. You're in the thick of it. They're done. They're literally
in there with like actual, and how he ended up in Max 23-1 is beyond me, because the dude was a domestic violence case. He's in there with guys on capital murder. What?
Yeah.
What are those two people doing in the same place at the same time? And these dudes are
like bragging about it, bro. Like they don't give a fuck. They're like,
they're
bro,
psychopaths, bro.
Yeah, they're like, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, man, I fucking shanked that motherfucker. Yeah. They got fucking contraband and knives and shit. They're like, yeah. Yeah, come in here, motherfucker. And he's like, these guys will kill you, bro. They don't care. They don't care. And you're gonna let these guys all out? No, no guards, no nothing. Hey, everybody, just play nice.
Yeah, right.
Let's see what happens. Let's roll the dice.
Well,
Bro.
so we watched an episode and change of that. It's a dumpster fire. I don't know if we're going to turn that back on, but maybe if we're desperate for something, we'll turn it back on. And otherwise, that's kind of it. Yeah, Succession. And then she's waiting for the next House of the Dragons or whatever. That's
coming
in June,
up. I think, or May. I think next month. I think it starts. This month.
This month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like the next thing that she's going to be looking for, and then I think am I crazy, or is the next Lord of the Rings thing coming too?
I don't know. I still haven't even seen first season.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It's a show that, like, okay, so remember when you watched Game of Thrones first season, you were like, it was good, but it wasn't like amazing.
That's this. Yeah.
That's exactly how this felt. Where I'm looking at it going, okay, there's an opportunity for this to totally be dope.
Yeah.
But it ain't the first season. No.
But this, I can see promise. Yeah.
It could have been better, Sean Bean died and it might have been better, but it was all right. It was okay. It was okay.
What happened to Sean Bean? I haven't seen that guy in anything in fucking forever.
Nobody's looking for a career dude that dies. I don't know. They need to get him back in. I think we need one more Sean Bean in a Bond movie where he's the guy that dies. I think that's what we need to send off Sean Bean's career. That's a good question. Where is Sean Bean?
I just looked it up. Yeah, he hasn't been doing a whole lot, man. He's just been in some TV
maybe he's just
shows
chilling
and some
after
video games.
Yeah, maybe he's just chilling.
Big chillin'.
I mean, that man's got some money in his pocket. He don't need to work if he don't feel like working. Maybe he's got grandkids now.
It's very possible. He's out here living his life.
Sean Bean's such an enigma, bro. What a fucking actor. But then at the same time, every time Sean Bean pick up a script and he reads it and he finds his character's dying, he's like, oh, well, here I am.
Hey,
again.
Here I am. Time to die.
At one point there was a supercut online. It's probably taken down now for copyright. There's a supercut online of every Sean Bean death in all of his movies. Man.
Probably a 30-minute video.
It's like a 30-minute long video.
Fucking Jesus Christ.
It was got to the point where, like, the running gag was if you saw Sean Bean as part of it was a spoiler because you knew he was going to die.
He was dead. Yeah, he's dead.
Anyway, I think we'll move on into the last segment. Mr. Black, hit me up with that jingle.
Tech support.
Patreon.com/LagTV. Mr. Black just gave you the spiel not long ago. If you want to financially support the podcast each and every week, $5 or more a month gets you a couple of perks, but primarily you're able to ask us some questions and we give you some answers with the time that we've got. Coming in hot and ready, one of your favorites, Mr. Black, pulsating, ripe, developing titties, asks, would you ever, I still can't believe that name hasn't been banned on Patreon. I gotta keep it a buck. Would you
I'm
ever...
just happy I said that like fucking 10 years ago and not in 2024. I'd have been in trouble.
Would you ever try out the carnivore diet? It gets a bad rap because it's usually done by Joe Rogan meathead stereotypes, but my regular friend swears by it and has helped with heaps of his health issues.
No. I mean...
Probably not.
No, I mean, dude, just the thought of just eating fucking meat and that's it.
And a true carnivore diet is like no salt, no pepper.
No, I know.
You're just eating straight meat.
That's the show. That's a big no for me, dog. Even, dude, there's tons of things out there that can be great for your health. Don't mean I'm going to go out and fucking suffer to do it, By all means, go for it. I mean, I'm not going to hate on you for doing it or talk down or look down upon anybody that wants to do these extreme diets. But, dude, with how my stomach is and stuff, bro, it's just asking for me to fucking just have a bad time. I mean, I don't know, bro. It just doesn't seem, and it just doesn't even seem that appealing. Like, I love meat like the rest of them, bro. I love steak. Love it.
Oh, I
ain't trying to eat it fucking damn near 7 days a week.
End of week 1, I'm already done.
Yeah, bro.
Like I'm over. I can only eat so much skirt steak before I gotta pack it in. And with the price of the price of meat right now, bro, you ain't eating steak.
Oh, bro. I mean, dude.
Three steaks at Costco, $70 right now. You would
straight
be
up
broke.
Well, the thing is, if I had to do it, if I had to do it, the only way I could do it is by eating really good quality beef. There's no way. There's no way I could just go grab a shitty cut from somewhere, fucking throw that on the fryer on the barbecue, and then just fucking eat that shit. I'd have to literally go out, like once a week. I'd have to eat Wagyu, you know, just to fucking have something that's like fatty and just delicious. I'd have to get some like really high end steaks and shit to eat throughout the week. Because you eat this garbage, like this low quality stuff, man, that shit's gonna be rubbery and fucking hard to chew and gross.
Your jaw is gonna be toasted.
It's gonna be a bad time, bro. So like you would need, I mean, you would probably spend, I would probably have to spend, I'm not even joking, it would probably be $3,000+ a month.
On steak.
Meat.
Yeah.
Just on meat.
Well, you got to be only eating twice a day. Like you're not eating 3 meals a day on meat. There's just no shot.
You just have to drink a lot of water, a lot of fluids, and
eat
a lot of vitamins and other random shit. Bro,
that's what would concern me. I mean, if you add liver and stuff in, your vitamins are probably like you don't have to like crank too bad. But at the same time, what's more concerning to me is the lack of fiber. Like,
I was just about to say,
like if I don't eat a lot of fiber, like in vegetables or something else, I'm constipated inside of 48 hours. If I'm eating nothing but red meat,
bro, shit's gonna
I'm
not
not
like
shitting.
Fist.
I'm not shitting.
You'd be given birth every time you go to take a shit. Nobody wants to do that.
No chance. Now, as for the efficacy of an all meat diet, there is studies that a lot of diets that become popular, the problem is that a lot of people look at them and they take a diet that they should only be doing in a short term,
small window,
and they just go, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my fucking like adult life, and that's where problems start to arise. Nobody is ever going to tell you that has a brain, as a doctor of any kind, that eating straight red meat every single day, long term, like let's call it, over 2 years plus,
it's not healthy.
Is a good idea. You're going to have some knock-on effect that's probably not worth the time. That being said, the reason why the meat diet works is that you can get almost, if not everything that you need, especially if you add in stuff like liver, for example, and nothing else. And most people, with the exception of people that can't process meat protein or creatine naturally, which is a very small number of people, it's the closest thing to a pure and true elimination diet that exists that you can do a long enough term to quell or eliminate some specific health issues. The thing is, after you've done that, the trick is to work your way back in to incorporating other stuff again, and you'll be okay. But most people just keep going and going and going and going and going and going. Like, I think a lot of people see like Jordan Peterson and his daughter, who are like long-term meatitarians. At least they say they are. And that ain't gonna... Oh! Is it here? Is it here? Is it in the city?
It's in the city, man.
Oh, let's fucking go.
It's in the city, bro.
Oh, let's go. The car is here. The car is here. But yeah, I wouldn't personally fucking... I thought about doing it short term to see if it would help clear up my skin issues. And it probably would, honestly. But I can't afford it.
Definitely help. Yeah,
I literally can't afford it.
I've actually done research on the diet. Because this is the first time somebody's mentioned this.
For you, because of all the issues you were experiencing, you probably looked into it, yeah.
Correct. I looked into it. I even brought it up to my dietitian.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, and she basically echoed the same thing that you said. She's like, you're probably going to see some good benefits from it.
Yeah.
Fiber might be an issue. And so you got to take something fiber wise to fucking flush out, so you can shit. But she also said, like, if you're going to do this is something that you don't want to do for too long. Like, this is something to get to improve your well-being, and then, like you said, wean off, add some other things. And she even said, like, some people, when they do these diets, they'll do them for 3-6 months.
Yes.
And then after that, they'll still be a meat-heavy diet, but they will incorporate some other things. So maybe 70% of the stuff, 80% of the stuff they eat is still meat, but they have some other things there to kind of break some shit down. So
yeah,
good luck with that. Whoever sent that in, fucking
Godspeed.
send it back in another 3 months or however long you do it. Let us know. Let us know what it did for you. I'm actually interested.
Godspeed. Let's see what we got here. Wow. Oh, this is intriguing. I'd love your take on this, Mr. Black. Bork Chop says, I recently watched all 3 of the recent, so the newest versions of these, the Planet of the Apes movies, in anticipation for the new one coming out next week.
Yeah.
Said, I'm truly amazed at how little people talk about these movies. It's true. You don't really hear that. People don't really talk very much about them. Even when they're out, people don't talk about them that much. I would genuinely, this is him saying this, I would genuinely put them on the level of Dune 2, and they receive little to no hype. My mouth was actually to the floor more times than I could count. Have you guys seen them and getting pumped for the new one?
I think I've seen them all but the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. It depends. Is that the one that had what's his face in it? The guy that's also from the Hunger Games.
Oh.
What's his face? Let me see here. Planet.
I wouldn't be. I'm so bad with names.
Planet of the Apes. Let me see here. Planet of the Apes. Somebody in chat. Fuck, what's his face? And he's like potentially long lost brothers with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh my God, you're talking about Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah,
that's the last one I saw with Woody Harrelson.
Right.
I don't know if that's the last one that was out or there was one more after that. There might have been one more. But the guy that sent this question in, the movies are pretty fucking fire. They're very high quality films, action packed. The CGI is incredible. Like, these fucking apes look like you and I, bro. I mean, we are fucking apes to some degree, but you know what I'm saying?
I get you. Yeah.
The realism of it is insane, man. They are really good films. Are they in the level and the artistic expression of Dune 2? Bro, I think you might be you might be coped up a little bit. But I can appreciate his enthusiasm about the films, because they really are great blockbuster films. And they are up there with some of the best blockbuster films, franchises that are out there. But yeah, I'm kind of with him on that. They aren't really discussed a whole lot. They aren't like, you got to run out and see Planet of the Apes, fucking 19, you know what I mean? But they are good. They are very good movies. I agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. The Planet of the Apes films I've seen, I think I saw one. I don't know if it's part of the most recent run of them or not. To be honest, I don't remember, so that means probably not. I don't know. There's something I've never been even a bit interested in the Planet of the Apes films. It's not intrigued me.
Really good. The new ones are really good,
and I know they're good. Like and you know me, I love Woody Harrelson. And I'll watch basically anything Woody Harrelson is in, and I have yet to see the Planet of the Apes film. So there's just something about those movies that I've never even been remotely, interested in. Maybe I'll ask him if she's seen them, and if not, maybe we'll make a point to watch them together.
That's a good franchise for y'all to binge, man.
Yeah,
the movies are fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, nobody ever has anything bad to say about the Planet of the Apes at all. Yeah, they're always good.
They're very, very good. So yeah, I if I were you, I'd get on that too. Cat Williams just got a new Netflix special that's coming out on the 4th. And it's called Woke Folk.
Oh, go boy.
This ought to be a special.
Oh boy, Cat fucking Williams. Cat Williams' interview with Shannon Sharp.
Bro, he broke the internet, man. He fucked the whole access up of the timeline that we're in right now, bro. He went nuclear, and everybody's just been acting weird since he came out with that shit.
Well, like the thing about Cat in that interview is it's kind of like the perfect example of two truths and a lie.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm not, and it's not to say that I'm saying Cat was outright lying about something, but just the concept of it. So like, Cat in that interview was one, cooked out of his fucking goddamn tree going into that interview. That man was blasted going into that interview. No doubt in my mind. Two, he couldn't stop moving the whole time. He rubbing his legs the whole fucking time he's on that show. Rocking and rubbing his legs. Cat was fired up. So, other than that, but like a lot
gotta
of what he
also
said,
understand too with Cat. Sorry to cut you off, but with Cat, he's also a stand-up comedian.
Yes,
so he's used to pacing the stage, being more
animated,
I get it. And he's probably just kind of.
It's a different
it's a different
arena for him.
He's a storyteller. You know what I'm saying? And he's probably just a lot of shit going through him, right?
Yeah. Oh, there was a lot. There was a lot of shit going through him.
Yeah, for sure.
But he did. He said some shit that I think everyone knows is happening, but nobody in the sphere is talking about it for the reasons that he would have mentioned in that interview. But because Cat is one of the rare examples of being completely self-made, he is not beholden to the same
he doesn't have a
system.
He does. Yeah, he doesn't. And because of that, he's had a tough road, and he's been underrated, underappreciated, underpaid in some aspects.
The man's still fucking worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
He's done very, very well. But I mean, he should honestly, from a comedian standpoint, like there's Dave Chappelle, there's Chris Rock, there's Martin Lawrence,
Eddie Murphy,
and Eddie Murphy. Can't forget Eddie. So it's like, Eddie's probably number 2.
Yeah.
And then some people number
Cat's
1.
Top five.
I gotta put
Cat is
Dave,
a top 5.
I think Cat is right in that bottom top 5.
Like for me, it would be like
I think he's above Martin Lawrence. I think he's below Chris Rock, below Dave Chappelle.
You can't forget Richard Pryor.
Eddie
Richard
Murphy.
Pryor has to be top 3. You can't not put Richard Pryor top 3.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of good comedians. Richard Pryor's up there. I still, I put Richard Pryor above Martin Lawrence. I'd probably put Martin Lawrence at number 6. You got to put Richard Pryor.
I would put Martin 6.
Richard Pryor. I'm putting Richard Pryor probably at 4, and I'm putting Cat Williams at number 5.
And all of the guys you're listing are all guys that are standing on the shoulders of Richard Pryor, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Everyone.
I mean, some of these guys will say Richard Pryor's the GOAT, but that's what you do when you're a comedian that has came up listening to him and you idolize him, right? You got to have some humble.
You built off of that guy's platform, basically.
But then again, a lot of these guys will say Dave Chappelle's the guy. And I think if Richard Pryor was still around, he would say Dave Chappelle's the guy.
I would agree with that.
Dave Chappelle is the fucking, in my opinion, he is the GOAT of all comedy of all time, and it's because the stuff that he's done, the Dave Chappelle show, the stand-up specials, where he started, where he's at, and how much of a cultural impact he has today. He's uncancelable. He is a force. He has such a way of speaking politically to people, but in a way that doesn't come off too preachy. To some it may, I get that, but not too preachy, but he's saying real shit, and he's covering up hurt with comedy, and it still hurts, but it's he's just got a way, man. He just knows how to deliver a message. Dave is the GOAT for me.
Dave is, I mean, I like to, when it comes to comedy, I have to, even though guys tend to in comedy because of the nature of the business and it's rare to be able to only exist in one of the arenas of comedy.
Yeah.
Some of them cross over. So you'll get guys that cross over into being a writer or in television, like Dave did the Chappelle show, for example, on top of his stand-up and whatnot. Because just stand up on its own, sometimes it's not always going to be the thing that carries you forever. And so some guys will cross over. So I often will like to draw a line because I think there are some pure comedy writers that you never even see. They're in the background that are doing the writing for shows and other comedians that you never even hear their names, and they're fucking legendary until you hear those comedians mention them by name and they'll be like, These are the
guy or
guys
this
that are
gal
back
is
here
the
doing
fucking-
this shit.
yeah,
It's just that they don't, because there are comedians that are incredible, but they aren't capable of transferring that into an onstage presence. And then there are people that have the presence, but they don't have the writing as much. And so those two, like, they symbiotically fucking live off of one another. And then there are people that can do both. Dave is one of the guys that
Dave
can
is
do
the guy that can do both.
And then I would say for me, I don't even know if I could think of like all-time greats just from a stand-up perspective. I would say that that Dave is I would have a hard time. Dave more recently has been less of a comedian and more of like a social activist that occasionally tells a joke. And I think that's fine. I wish, but I do think that he was better at telling jokes that weaved social commentary into them than he is being social commentary and weaving jokes in. Like, you know what I mean? So the ratio of, or what was serving what. So in the past, the comedy was serving social commentary, and now it's social commentary is serving.
Yeah. I mean, when he has concerts, he basically is going there to rant about things that
bother him.
That bother him, and he does it in a funny way.
Yes,
that in a creative way. That's been Dave.
I respect that. I just wish that he was accomplishing very similar things, but with a more comedic focus or comedic heavy.
I know what you're saying.
Front.
Yeah,
I wish he was like that.
I think he also has the weight of trying to how do I put this? I think, and I'm speculating here. I have He does. I don't think he's come out right and said this, but I think that part of him, he knows that he's the man. He knows that he is the face of comedy, and I think he also feels as though he has a duty to shut down cancel culture when it comes to comedy and the extremes that people feel when jokes are being told. And I think he also understands the pressure points to upset people, and he does it purposely to prove a point. And I think he says that he hates the combative nature of what comedians go through now with the heckling and the audiences and the social commentary and stuff like that, but yet he doubles down and triples down on just that to stoke a fire. And I think that he probably feels like he's the only one in comedy that can do it and get away with it. And so he's doing it, because if anybody else outside of, say, Joe Rogan went on stage and said some of the things that he is saying, whether you believe that, whether you agree with what he says or he doesn't, it's irrelevant. But to be able to get up there and do it on the biggest of stage with the largest of audiences and say it and get a message across, I think the vast majority of comedians out there would literally be canceled. They would not get work. There would be pressures for say these Netflix series or these venues and whatnot to not host these individuals because of the polarizing things that some of these comedians are saying. And the thing is when it comes to comedy, it's not like Dave Chappelle is targeting very specific groups of people. He goes at everybody, and it's been like this forever. Nobody complained about comedy when somebody black would fucking with some jokes or Asian jokes or gay jokes or religious jokes or any. It was kind of like you went into a venue and you kind of let that stuff go and you kind of knew what you were getting yourself into. Do I agree with everything that Dave says? No, I don't. And he said, even on some of his specials as of late, he said some spicy stuff that I'm like, did you really need to go that route? But at the same time, it's comedy. Yeah. He has the right to, it's America. He has the right to say how he feels and do his thing. And, from that aspect, I can appreciate what he does. Do I agree with everything? No, I don't. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I still don't revere him as the GOAT of comedy. Yeah. Because he's just, and he's adapting to each like every generation that kind of goes by, he's adapting and staying relevant and being at the top no matter the climate, no matter what the discussion is. He finds a way to be relevant. And there's not a lot of comedians that can do that, bro. A lot of comedians burn bright for a season and then they're gone.
Yeah, they have their thing.
And and now, with Dave, he's been here forever.
Well, I think that's because of the fact that his comedy has always been rooted in social commentary. Social commentary is always a constantly moving target, and so if that's the root of all of your material, as long as you are able to consistently turn that into an entertaining, delivery, then you're always going to be relevant. Whereas a lot of other people, the comedy is more of something that might be popular at the time, where it's more of a delivery based thing, so that the topics aren't as important. It's just the delivery of them. Like, so for example, probably the greatest example of this is Dane Cook.
Yeah.
Who burned bright as anyone ever could have. Yeah. And then burnt out and disappeared.
Yeah. But he made his money. He made his money, and
he did his thing.
It is what it is.
I would say, for me, Dave Chappelle's definitely up there, and Richard Pryor, and obviously I respect that people have always found Eddie Murphy really funny on his stand up. I'm like a hit or miss on Eddie's stand up routines. I think Eddie Murphy's a very funny individual. I was just never the biggest fan of his stand up routines. Yeah. I don't know if anyone can have a GOAT of comedy discussion for stand-up without mentioning George Carlin. It would be kind of like bonkers. And George Carlin is the closest facsimile in 40 years ago to what Dave Chappelle's doing right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Carlin is the guy that got up on stage and literally said everything that he shouldn't, like the famous thing where he did like the dirty words where you weren't supposed to say any of that on TV. And and Carlin was an incredibly hyper intelligent individual, just like Dave, and was capable of bringing that down so that everyone could come along for the ride. But there was a lot of mastery to it, and basically just spent his whole life trying to basically just remind everyone about what's going on. Now, granted, Carlin was a hell of a lot more bitter than Dave Chappelle is. Carlin was possibly the most bitter. I'm pretty sure the only reason he lived as long as he did is because of how bitter his bitterness sustained him. Yeah. But that's definitely a similar situation where his comedy was rooted in cultural significant points, and it always moved. It was always like whatever's happening, and let's talk about how stupid that is, and go along with it. And it's the same with Dave, different, in a different, just in a different light. And so, for sure, I would say, oh man, I don't even know if I can name, but it's got to be. I don't know if I'm gonna put it in order, but there's Dave, there's Carlin, there's Pryor.
Chris Rock, man. Chris Rock's a funny fucking guy, man.
Chris Rock
specials.
Chris Rock is pretty funny.
Yeah. He's kind of fallen off over the last 5 years or so, even though we haven't really seen much of him really over the last decade. But I mean, Chris Rock had a fucking run, bro. That guy's funny as fuck.
Honestly, for me, once I get below Carlin and Chappelle, everyone else for me is more of a special to special basis. Like they have one or two specials that are like, these are fucking incredible. But when it comes to I can put you up here on, and then Pryor, it put you up in this pantheon, this Rushmore. There's three guys at the top that almost didn't miss for their entire career and created the entire landscape that everyone else is walking on. Yeah. And so I can be like, they've got a couple of specials that were fire, and some of them hit more than others. But for me to put them up there with Chappelle and Pryor and Carlin,
they're on another level. Yeah, they're on another level.
It's a whole different ball game.
I feel you.
Yano asks, what old tech do you miss the most, Mr. Black? He said, I personally kind of miss old CD player, the old CD player era.
I don't really miss that. The CD players, you say that. I think the nostalgia factor of it is probably weighing more than anything. Dude, if you get rid of MP3s or, digital music, and then you brought back Discmans and you started listening to fucking CDs and the skipping and the fucking scratches and the, taking out a CD to put another one in. And yeah, you could get like, multi CD Discmans and stuff. Like, it did get kind of cray cray, but no, that ain't it. I would say, a piece of technology, like it's got to be tech, right?
Yeah, just a piece of tech that you miss using or having be like a common thing. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I will always miss the ICQ MSN days. I will always miss it.
I mean, we got it now. It's Discord.
Yeah, that's not the same thing though. It's just not the same. It's really not even close to the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. Oh man, I'm just trying to think. A piece of tech that I miss using. I'm trying to think of something clever, but I'm like, at the same time, like, what is it that I used
What would
to
it even
use?
been? Yeah.
What? Yeah, exactly. Shit, man.
I'll say this because it is old tech and it's going out even more. We talked about it. I miss renting physical movies. I miss the pageantry, the ritual of getting in the car, going to the rental store, walking around the aisles, looking for something that looks kind of cool that I haven't seen before, renting it and taking it home. Much like with video games, I miss renting video games. I say that.
I would say that is probably the thing that I can think of the most is renting video games, going to an actual rental store, seeing the wall of all the games, and the new cool releases would have like 8 copies. Yeah, and then like they'd have like the case. And then the actual like thing behind it, so you would know if it's available.
The
and
clear
then if
jewel cases behind it.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
I used to like grab the box, read the back of the box. Sometimes you could go up and ask the person up at the front desk, like take a look at the manual and kind of like look through it. Like, there's just something nostalgic about that. And I can honestly say that if we couldn't download video games and we had to go to the store to go and buy them, I actually think it would be an improvement on my gaming experience life. Like, yeah.
There is a ritual part of that. There's something to it.
You almost build a connection with the game a little bit more. It's like, hey, I've chosen you. It's like going to the bar, and there's a bunch of beautiful girls there, and any of them will go home with you, and you get to like go up and speed date them a little bit. Ask them. You can look, hey, why don't you do a little turn there for me? Take a look at the back. Take a look at the front.
What is this mail order bride situation?
Ask them what it's all about. What are your interests? What kind of game are you? Are you hard? Are you difficult? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something about that. You know what I'm saying? And now we just go log on and download the game for $450. It charge your credit card, and then that's it. There's no booklet to look through. If you're lucky, there's digital art. Who gives a fuck about that? There's just something tangible. But going to the damn store, spending a good hour in there, trying to figure out who you want to take home.
There is something to be said about a lot of things where as a society, as a culture, our incessant and never-ending rush towards saving as much time as possible, strips away a lot of the best parts of the process of almost everything. And the worst part about it is, what is it that you're saving time for? And usually the answer is, I got to make more money, which is just a depressing fucking thought, to the point where the idea of driving or walking or whatever, getting into a movie, rental store and looking at shit and being like, oh, well, that would take too much of my time is a depressing fucking thought. Because at the other side of it is like, what else are you going to do with your time? What are you doing? And you're like, well, I could work some more because I need more money. And that's just like,
That's
so
right.
every time that we save time anywhere, whether it's in entertainment or otherwise, it's always backfilled with
diminishing
more
returns.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm with you on that. I think I'm sticking to it. The video game, going to rent video game, even buying the video games, the same thing, same process happens, right?
Do you think you would buy less, which would be like easier to spend less money as well because of the not because you have to physically go there, but because that connection where you're like, I'm only going to buy something that really truly looks. Do you think that would change your habits?
I don't think I'd buy less. If anything, I think I'd buy more.
Buy more?
Because I would be in the store and things that I necessarily wouldn't look at. Now I'm looking at it. Now I'm contemplating. Now I'm figuring things out. And I feel like I would own more games just inherently. I really do. Because there's dialogue that happens too. When back in the day, used to go to game store, the people that worked there, they just loved video games.
You also could tell played them.
Sweaty fucking nerds that just, it's like, hey man, if I can't fucking just play games all day, I may as well go to a store where I can fucking sell them and talk about them and do, not all of them were like that, but I'm, fluffing it up for comedic
a lot of them were at the time.
But they were fucking sweaty nerds like you and I, bro. And we go in there and be looking at that, and they would have a spiel about the game, bro. They tell you, dude, 90% of the people that have been coming in the store the last 3 days have been buying that game right there, man. That game is fire. Oh, man, there's a section in here, bro. Have you checked out game FAQs? There's something in it. There used to be just discussions about it. There was something just different.
I feel like I got more out of the game back then, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all of that extra stuff you just listed. You know, the all of those extra processes, I felt like there was a higher chance that I was going to play the game more fully and be more involved in it.
You had foreplay, bro. You had foreplay. So don't get it twisted. Sometimes you just want to stick it in, fucking go, ha, 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 and that's that. But then sometimes you want to take your time, man.
Yes.
You want to bring out the handcuffs. You want to bring out that feather. You want to lick a couple boxes. You want to do all the things, right? You want to warm it up. And then when you do that, I said a couple. Yeah, I said a couple. Hey,
that sounds like a good time.
But wait, when you got the foreplay going, right? It just feels better.
It's true.
You can't wait to get in. You know what I'm saying? And when you do all that foreplay at the video game and you've committed to go to the mall or go to the game store, you ain't typically running in there, grab a game and run the fuck out. You want to take your time.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you took a piss and a shit before you went. You want to bring your buddy with you. You want to fucking look around. Check out even consoles that you don't even own. You want to just go over there and take a look.
Fantasize,
bro.
Yeah.
That's the foreplay. You're reading the book, you're going through the manual, you're visualizing you playing it. You're starting to get excited. Dick's starting to you got the chub going. Blood's starting to rush through to the tip. And you're like, dude, I'm about to spend the whole weekend with my boy just fucking gaming the fuck out of this, bro.
Yes.
Dude, which game are we getting, man? Which game are we getting? Are we getting this one or are we getting this one? We're going to dude. And then sometimes you say, fuck it, we're getting both.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, man. Ha!
That's the way.
You get back, you can't put the disc in quick enough, bro.
No.
You can't.
And now I wake up, turn on Steam, scroll through 5 or 6, sex games that are for some reason inexplicably in the top list that Steam refuses to get rid of. And then, what are we playing this weekend, boys? Oh, I don't know.
That's it.
17th Battle Royale seems like it might be good.
When you left the game store, you knew what you were going home to play.
Yeah.
Now, you just don't know.
And we're
Netflix.
spoiled for choice. We got too much to look at.
Correct. And 90% of it's garbage. It's
hot
just
trash.
Yeah. It's like scrolling Netflix. You ever scroll Netflix so much that you literally scroll for an hour and a half, you realized, oh, my whole night's gone now. I'm not going to fucking start a movie or a show now. It's fucking 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
I do that all the time.
Netflix is going off to the phone.
Yep.
Same old shit.
Yep.
It's the same thing with video games, man. If you go to the movie theater, You already know what movie you're going to see.
Yeah.
You go there, you know what movie you're going to see. It's an event. You go there, you experience it, you leave.
There's still some pageantry with going to a theater. Like, that's still there. But we're missing that now in games and movies at home, and, you know, after they're out of the theater. I think music is similar, because I like the music analogy with the CD. I don't know if I necessarily miss CDs or dealing with them, although the quality,
going to the store,
the quality of a disc is obviously better than streaming. I mean, clearly it fucking sounds better, but the not that it matters, because everyone's walking around with Apple fucking earbuds and everything sounds the same. Like, you're literally listening to ass. They don't even have to try. Like, I'm sure as somebody that produces music, does it not bother you how shit production is right now? Like,
well, they
once
do it.
in a
they
while,
do it for the iPods. Like, they're like, hey,
they have to produce it. Yeah, they have to produce
it
so shit so that when you put like an actual set of cans on or something, or you put on speakers, you're like, what the fuck am I listening to? It just sounds terrible. So other than that, I think what it was about buying a CD is it's similar. When you get it, you know you have it. You've selected it because, you know, for any number of reasons, it's the whole shebang. You take it home. I think I had a better chance, or I did more. I was buying CDs. I listened to the whole CD. Whereas when I go out and I'm listening to the streaming services and stuff now, I'm just 3 songs.
Yeah, bro.
Done.
That's it.
When's the last time that I can think of that I sat down and listened to a full album and
Chris Brown's new album? I'm crushing that, bro.
Okay.
Full thing. That shit's fire.
Do you slap anyone in it?
The only thing he was slapping, bro, were these hits. I'm telling you that right now, bro. He's that motherfucker. Did you hear the Chris Brown diss track to Quavo? Quavo.
I mean, Quavo's the okay.
Quavo's
First
trash
of all,
anyway. I mean,
who
it's
the fuck?
Quavo,
Yeah, who the fuck goes out their way to diss Quavo? Like, what are you getting a one up on Quavo?
Breezy did.
Breezy
did. C Breezy did. Fuck around with C Breezy.
Breezy's a fucking mess, bro. The dude's a fucking mess.
Huge mess.
He makes good. He's made some good music, but I mean, fire. Really, it bothers me that a guy can literally so publicly and multiple times be a woman beater, especially on a high profile also artist in Rihanna, and then still have such an enormous fan base that will just die on a hill for the guy is crazy to me.
Dude,
there's a lot of shit that, like, you know, it was like the discussion around, we've had this discussion before of how much, and everyone has their own individual lines for this, but like, where do you separate the art and the artist? Like, how, like, you have to some degree, because you're not going to agree with, you know, everything somebody else. Now there's a difference between, you know, disagreeing with somebody on principle about certain things. The moment you just become an overt woman beater,
that's it for you.
I'm
You're
out.
checking out. Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm out, Breezy. Have fun chewing on Quavo.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I think he's a fucking piece of shit, but his music is fucking fire.
Unfortunately,
he is talented as fuck. He is
unfortunately,
super talented,
yes.
bro.
And then there's that other diss from fucking Kendrick Lamar or whatever.
Bro, I thought listen. I think Drake's still up, bro. I think Drake is still up.
I gotta be honest. Well, here's the problem with Kendrick. Kendrick is gonna run into the same problem.
I just don't like Kendrick's cadence, bro. I don't like Kendrick's cadence at all. The noises and the weird whiny shit that he does. I'm not a fan of it.
It's hard to listen to him long time. Like, I get ear fatigue listening to Kendrick.
Yeah.
The thing about this whole and what a tangent, but the thing about that whole bullshit for me is, for Kendrick, I think Kendrick's problem is that even though first of all, clearly it doesn't matter. What I'm about to say doesn't matter that much, because this thing got streamed like a quadrillion times in the last 48 hours. I think Kendrick's problem is similar to Eminem's problem, where his shit's too cerebral and it goes over the head of like 99.9% of the people that would want to listen to it in the first place. Yeah. And this diss, I think, is not dissimilar, where there's so many layers and so much shit moving parts in this diss that he'll hit a couple of like overt bars that the average person will get, but the majority of what he's saying, you gotta have a fucking, like, you gotta go at it like it's an archaeological goddamn dig, and you gotta know every waking moment of Drake's life for the last 20 years
of hip hop. Yeah, I mean, you gotta really know your fucking shit. Which his core audience, that's what they fuck with.
It's definitely closer to that for sure. Yeah,
you know, and Drake is sort of the opposite, right? Drake is the commercial guy. Don't get me wrong, he's got some fucking bars and he said some fire. But I think the vast majority of people are going to bop more to Drake stuff than Kendrick stuff. And I mean, that's very obvious, even just by fucking, the level of success. But
honest to God,
Kendrick is dope. He's just not my go-to artist.
If I'm Drake,
he's too artsy.
If I'm Drake, one, I'm walking around naked because my dick's huge and I just got that swing. But two, beyond that, I could keep it a buck.
Yeah, okay.
Keep it a buck.
I mean, imagine having all that dick, all that money,
yeah,
all that fame, all that talent.
And he didn't even have to come up out the hood, bro. He came up out of fucking Ontario.
Yeah.
The dude won at every junction, which is why what I'm about to say, okay? Why the fuck is Drake saying anything to Kendrick? I'd let Kendrick hate all day and spin his fucking wheels because I make so much more money. My shit's played so much more frequently. I don't need clout. I'm clouded out of my goddamn mind. I am the guy globally.
Because it's hip hop, bro. It's hip hop.
I understand it's hip hop.
And Drake comes from a battle background. He loves the rap battle stuff, and he's going after the throne.
So I do it one time. I do what M does. Somebody disses me. And I say, I don't even know if I want to engage with you. Because for one, anyone just Eminem is out of his fucking tree if somebody goes after him.
This ain't MGK, bro. This is Kendrick Lamar.
I know, but it happens, and then you go, okay, I'm going to do this one time.
Yeah.
I'm going to respond one time because I know it's a rap game, and you have to, especially if it's Kendrick. This ain't somebody on the side of the road. If it's Kendrick, you got to respond. But I do it one time. And then I let him stand out in a fucking street somewhere, screaming into the void in perpetuity afterwards. Let him be angry. I got my response in. I'm going to say everything I want to say. I don't care if the song is 9 minutes long. I'm going to do it one time, and I'm going to stop paying attention to him and go on to make hundreds of millions of dollars and jerk off my enormous 12.5-inch long mandingo dick with a bunch of fucking women that don't care if they ever see me again because I'm Drake. That is, you already won. What are you doing? You are at because really think about it.
For both on a show, baby, selling albums, bro.
For both of them, Kendrick's making tons of money too. But Kendrick,
oh, bro, Kendrick's worth a couple $100 million, bro.
Yeah, Kendrick's worth a ton of money. So, but for Kendrick's got less to lose on a broad public-facing side than Drake does. So there's I think it's almost a lose-lose because you're going up against one of the greatest lyricists of all time, and 90% of your shit's ghost written as Drake. So you're already hoping that whoever you got writing for you is going to be able to go toe-to-toe with fucking Kendrick Lamar, which is already a gamble, which is why you do it one time. You say, go into the fucking bunker, boys. Come out with the heat of the century. You got a 9-minute banger. I'm gonna give you all the bars you need, and then we're going away. We can't do it because we can win the battle. We can't win the war. Kendrick will win the war, and he's got less to lose than we do. I'm Drake up here on this hill already. I'm here. We both got money, but Kendrick clearly is bitter about the fact. He
said that in the track. I'm on the top of the mountain. To talk to you, I had to hike down. You had to hike down to get down to your level. Come on, man. I'm Drake. The only bigger artist than me, Taylor Swift. That's it. I'm Drake.
You can't.
T-Swizzle's the only one that's got shit on me. That and maybe BTS. That's it. There ain't nobody else.
I would get out.
Man.
I would drop it once and fucking bounce, bro. Because the longer this goes on, the more there's a chance that Drake gets exposed in ways he don't want to be.
Oh, he's gonna get exposed, but hey, this is hip hop, man. This is a good time for hip hop. Come on now, give me more of it.
I know.
I'm fucking ready. Anyway, let's we gotta call this, bro. I gotta go down. Okay. I'm gonna drive down and see my car before I get even delivered.
Oh, that's right. I know you're chomping at the bit. Let me see, just one.
Yeah, bro. They close in an hour and 20 minutes, man.
Oh, Jesus Christ! All right, real quick answer to this one then, and then we will power out of here. Dr. Samurai. Oh no, sorry, not Dr. Samurai. I will answer Dr. Samurai without actually reading it all. The answer is probably not, but maybe. He knows what the question was. Theta asks, definitely a spicy question. It's not going to be a very long answer though. I can tell because I know what we're both thinking, but I'll give Theta the answer anyway. He said, "What are your thoughts?" 'Cause this is very topical in Canada right now, Mr. Black. What are your thoughts on the justice system in Canada? Not just the police, but the courts as well. How things are being handled here. It's very topical here right now. Got a lot going on up here, especially when it comes
to political questions coming up. Is that
we're
where we're
old.
at right now? It's like
we're old, Jeff.
Yeah.
Our audience is also old. This is what they're interested in.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
That's where we're at. We can only talk about Drake's dick for so long before we got to bring up some politics. Can't get away with it forever.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't know enough about our justice system to really give you an informed opinion.
Yeah.
But I will say, it's slow.
Mm-hmm.
It's dated.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're too loose on criminals. Like we're too easy on criminals as a whole. And outside of that, I honestly can't really get too deep into it because it's just not a topic that I particularly know too much about because I'm not like looking up fucking.
Yeah, oh, well, no, I don't think he's
under
like the penal code or anything that you've got memorized, but like on a macro level for sure. I mean, I've got thoughts about it. I won't talk about it forever so that we can get out of here, so that we can get StarCraft done. You can go see your car real quick, or go see your car and worry about StarCraft another day. But the two big topics right now are, one, what you brought up a bit, which is, are we too easy on certain categories of criminals specifically?
Certain categories, correct? Yes.
And then the next one that's happening, that's a problem out of BC, is how they decriminalized a lot of hard drugs.
That's right.
And which I knew was going to happen because California more or less did that shit, and Vancouver does everything California does just 5 years after. It's just what happens in Vancouver. And as it turns out, it might not be going so hot. The overdose loss of life is up orders of magnitude in a single calendar year.
Yeah.
And so now even the person that was helping putting this into place is now saying, we're going to examine maybe reversing that as a thing.
Yeah.
I know a couple of, I'm not going to say who because I don't want to compromise anything. I know a couple of people that spend a fair amount of time in both the jail and prison systems. I don't mean as prisoners. I mean administrative
correctional officers
side. So yeah. And there is a lot of discourse around how much who can you and who should you not bother trying to rehabilitate. And it's a very challenging question, or a very challenging topic to tackle, because on one hand, just from the sheer amount of money spent to keep somebody in jail it's a lot of money. Like taxpayers pay a shitload of money to have one person in jail for a year because of the amount of staff required for that one person is substantial and costs a ton of money, which is why in the States it's as lucrative as it is. But up here, it's not private, it's government. And so the taxpayer is who's paying for all this shit. That's probably where most of this comes from. And unfortunately, it gets heavily attached to the hyper liberal side of lenient application, in the hopes that not keeping somebody in the system will not turn them into career criminals, because there is a line in which there are people that if you leave them in the system, they wouldn't have been if they had gotten out, but now they're institutionalized and they're just in and out of the system for the rest of their life and doing shit every time they're left out. And then the question becomes, well, why are they even sitting in jail? And then, at some point people start talking about things like the death penalty and whatnot for certain crimes and shit like that. And it's a big fucking rat's nest. So it's a very complicated topic. I agree with Jeff on a macro level. I think it is self-evident that we're too lenient on certain categories of criminals right now. The states are really experiencing this bad when it comes to like car theft and breaking into things. I mean, like broad daylight type shit is quite frequent. That's starting to happen in a couple of pockets in cities in Canada as well. That's become a problem. not to the degree, obviously, that the States, but has dramatically increased for what we have here. I can say that here in Halifax, with our population increase and how we've handled things here, our police force was not ready for that population increase. The violent crime rate has gone up quite substantially here. We lost a very unfortunate, very sad, lost an immigrant young boy, 16, to some bullshit. When I looked up, this kid looked like some scrub that we would have went to school with when we were kids. That is the typical pants around his ankles, 14-pound soaking wet white kid that grew up in an area that's not the hood, but wants to live in the hood for some reason and just turns itself into that kind of a situation. And this is a family that moved here to get away from that shit, and now this is what happens. That was so fucking rare. That kind of shit's so fucking rare here until more recent years. It was crazy. Like once in a blue moon. Even where we grew up. It wasn't when kids were fighting. Even in where we grew up, Brian was here the other day, we were talking about this. So when we grew up, even the guys that were in jail and out of jail for doing violent crime, if they had a problem with you, you might get jumped. You might have a couple guys beat your ass, 100%. People weren't stabbing people or shooting people off the rip.
It was rare.
That was insanely rare. And now all of a sudden kids are like,
to go
jumping straight 0 to 100 fucking, and for whatever reason you could talk about that for hours, but it is a thing. And having a system that is too lenient is not helpful in certain instances and certain classes. So I think that's self-evident. But unfortunately, because it's been so politicized, that whole system, the liberal side of the floor, even if they know it's harmful, will continue to lean into it because for the fear of losing part of their voting base, so they won't go back on it. Yeah. And so, we're going to have, like it or not, the Conservatives, as we've said multiple times, here in Canada anyway, will be taking the seat on the next run. Yeah. And I suspect the next round of the Liberal parties that are forthcoming the next 4 to 8 years will be a very, very different beast than what we had right now, because they had no choice.
They have to be.
They have to be.
Literally no choice. Yeah. They're pretty much going to be starting over. So
yes, which is coincidentally when Trudeau first came in, that was the exact scenario that the Liberals were in.
Literally what happened. Yep.
They were fucked, and they had to do a 180, and they were forced to change, and they did. Yeah. And it was honestly,
and the change, you know what? The change was fine for a while, and then it went loony. And then it went fucking off the fucking rails.
Yes.
And it's like, okay,
it spun wildly out of control. That was the problem, was that up front, the Liberals were doing, that was everything, like it was fine. Things were fine. People were okay with everything they were doing. And then they just, my God, a complete flip. Yeah. And then part of that is the justice system. Part of that is how we're treating criminals. Yeah. The United States is facing the same thing. They have a more of a state-by-state thing than we do here with provincial, because again, it's states is much different. But it is a problem, for sure. And when it comes to cops, I think here is fine. They do fine. I think the real problems exist at the courthouse level. How long are they going away? When are they going away? When are they being allowed? When are they being allowed out? Yeah. That kind of a situation. That's the bigger problem that we face for sure. And I think most sane people would agree that the idea of rehabilitation is nice, and it absolutely can happen, and it's proven to happen. It's just incredibly difficult, and it's a case by case fucking basis. And I think a lot of people would like it to be something that you can just set it and forget it, canvas it, and say this entire section can be rehabilitated, and so fucking off you go. But I don't think you can. I think it's been shown at this point that that's just not an avenue that you can take. Anyway, Drake's dick is huge, and Jeff's going to go and see his car, and so we're going to end it there on that note.
Yes,
and we will see you guys next week. We got through it. Riffing.
We did.
This is the new format. I'm not even going to write podcasts anymore. I'm just going to show up. We'll just talk.
What's the point? What's the point?
I don't know. I probably should have at least like one or two things just in the reserve, so that if I need to spin off of something, I've got something to grab.
But we're master bullshitters, bro.
It's true.
Like, we just come up with anything.
That's true.
Try it out for a month, see what happens.
Let us know in the comment section if you're still listening. At the end of the video, only about 15% of you make it this far, by the way. That's a general for YouTube, typically. Let us know what you think of us just sitting down and memeing. And until next week, stay safe out there. Have a good one. And I keep wanting to make the same fucking joke about Drake's dick, but I've already done. I'll leave Drake's dick alone now. We'll
leave
see
Drake's
you next
dick alone, bro.
Peace.
Jesus Christ. Peace.